And we are live for week 5. How's it going, everyone? We are on London time this morning for the YouTube watchers out there that are already in this live stream. Shout out to you. If you can't tell, we're testing out a new camera today. A new camera. I think there's a pretty good chance the camera overheats about an hour into the live stream. So keep an eye out for me in the chat. I will be checking the chat to make sure the camera's working. We got a backup camera if we're ready. Year 5, week 5 of these Sunday morning live streams. And we finally got a new camera. First time not live streaming from the computer camera. We'll see how it goes. Let me know in the YouTube chat if it's not going well. If it's not going well, let me know. But good to see this from you, Brian. Shout out to all the OGs, all the new people already in here on London time with me this morning. It is the best day of the week. And we got a game on our TV screens kicking off in about an hour. We had the Ireland time game last week. I was pretty much L's across the board on the Ireland time game last week. Thought the Steelers were going to lose that one. Told way too many people to bench Kenneth Gainwell. I benched Kenneth Gainwell myself for Hendo. That cost me in one league. I do have some strong takes about the game coming up here in London, though. Try to get back on track in these early time games. But we're starting 30 minutes early. We are dialed in for week 5. We're at the point of the season, guys. We're a month in. We have a lot of data about this season so far that we cannot ignore. Absolutely cannot ignore the data from the first month. But there's some data I think matters more than others. We got some squeaky wheels, especially with the Eagles receivers. We'll talk about, obviously, a lot of tough start-sit decisions this week. We had people in our Discord send some really difficult start-sits ahead of the live stream. I am going to try to prioritize answering all the premium subscribers from the Discord channel start-sits across this live stream. Of course, though, we're going to prioritize the London time game first. That's why we're live an extra 30 minutes early today. All right, I'm pumped, man. We got an exciting week 5 here coming up. Let me start with the QB rankings. I'll pull those up here on the live stream. Let me start. I'll go first. Usually what we do without the London time game is I'll go game by game. I'll talk to basically every relevant player in every game, my takes on the games, my favorite player prop in each game. And then I'll go through my favorite prop of the day. Then I would go to my Draftkings lineup, then get to all the comments. Today, like we did last week, I'm going to go first through this London time game. I'm going to talk through all my thoughts on this London time game. Let me make sure we're not on subscriber-only comment mode here on the TikTok live. I think we might be. They changed. Looks like we're good. Okay, let's get to this Browns London time game against the Vikings. So last week, I stood here. I got to give the caveat. I'm going to eat my L's over the course of the season. We're never going to get everything right. That is the nature of the NFL. It's the nature of fantasy football. It's the nature of a high-variance game. It's part of the reason this is so fun. But no one's going to be 100% right. I certainly was wrong on the early time game last week. And that has me extra dialed in on the early time game this week. Because these early time games, we're on London time today, they're way more fun when you nail them. You start the Sunday off well, and then you get to be already on a good streak heading into the 1 o'clock games. All right, so we got the Browns playing the Vikings. This is the Vikings' second straight game now overseas. They were in Ireland last week. Now they're in London. So they have a slight advantage, I think, there over the Browns, who had to fly to London, get on this time zone a little bit later in the week. Maybe that has something to do with the spread here. But the Vikings 3.5-point favorites, I think, also has a lot to do with not much confidence in Dylan Gabriel. So Dylan Gabriel, rookie for the Browns, he was picked ahead of Shedeur Sanders in the NFL draft. Not many people expected that. And clearly the Browns like Dylan Gabriel more than Shedeur Sanders. And that's showing up here again. He's starting before Shedeur. We'll see if Shedeur Sanders even starts a game this year. The reason I have hope here for Dylan Gabriel is just how bad Joe Flacco was. I actually didn't realize just how bad Joe Flacco was until I went back and looked at some of his data. But just a quick reminder who Dylan Gabriel is. He was picked at the very end of the third round of the NFL draft. We were not very high on him as an NFL prospect. Usually third round draft picks, especially end of third round, they're not very good for fantasy football. They're not very good at the NFL level. I think like best case for Dylan Gabriel long-term is he's the backup, like a decent backup for the Browns. I think that's the best case for Dylan Gabriel. So it's hard to be too excited for him here in his first game. But then you look at what Flacco did, and it's hard to be much worse. And I always have to remind myself when it comes to the NFL, it can almost always be worse. It can almost always be worse. It's a very common thing to say, oh, it couldn't be much worse than X, Y, or Z. It almost always can. It almost always can. Just ask Giants fans over the last 5 years. Ask the Pats fans, too, over the last 5 years. We'll talk about the Pats game much later in the live, but a lot to get into there. Joe Flacco's probably been the worst starting quarterback in the NFL so far this season. He is the third most pass attempts in the league, but he's 23rd in pass yards. You have to be so inefficient to be top 3 in the NFL in pass attempts and be outside the top 20 in passing yards. It's extremely difficult to do. He's also 36th in passing touchdowns. He has just 2 passing touchdowns. One came week 1 against the Bengals, who have a bottom 10 defense. The other came against the Ravens, who have a bottom 10 defense this season. His completion percentage outside the top 32. His yards per attempt outside the top 32. It really can't get that much worse than what Joe Flacco has done for the Browns. So I think like worst case scenario here for Dylan Gabriel is he's as bad as Joe Flacco. So I don't think we should really be dinging the Browns, with the spread because of Dylan Gabriel getting his first start. I like the Browns' chances to win this game. The Browns have the better defense over the Vikings. The Vikings also have a lot of injuries in this game. Pull up the Vikings depth chart here for a second just to show you. The Vikings are without their starting left guard, their starting center, and their starting right tackle. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy sidelined as well, and they're also without their starting linebacker. So 3 starters on the O-line out for the Vikings against this Browns defensive line that might be the best defensive line in the NFL. They're at least top 3 defensive line in the NFL. The other notable thing here for the Browns and for fantasy, Cedric Tillman is out. He's out of this game. And Quinshon Judkins, we're locking him in to the starting lineup. I mean, we've been on Quinshon Judkins for the last 2 weeks. That's not going to change. He is my favorite player prop in this game. Again, it feels like the player prop markets haven't fully reacted to the role that Judkins is in, which is arguably the largest rush share role in the entire NFL. Like he's up there with Jonathan Taylor in terms of the percentage of carries he's getting from his team. He was at 95% of the team's carries in week 3, up to 80, almost 80% in week 4. He now has back-to-back games with at least 18 carries. What's his floor of carries in this game, guys? His floor of carries is 15. Like worst case. And even we've seen, even when the Browns are losing, they're getting crushed because the quarterback situation in pass game is so rough. They still have to run the ball. Like I think Judkins, his yards per carry is like barely behind Joe Flacco's yards per attempt this season. So it makes sense to keep running the ball, even if they're losing in their rare situation. So yeah, Judkins, his floor is like 50, 60 rushing yards. Whenever you can get a floor close to where the prop line is set, I mean, that's just a smash pick for the props. I think he's got a pretty good chance to go over 100 rushing yards in this game. The Vikings, by the way, mind you, they just allowed 100 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns to Kenneth Gainwell last week in Ireland. So I'm not missing the running backs here against the Vikings again, especially in a role like Judkins has right now. But with Cedric Tillman out, I think Harold Fannin is definitely a sleeper here. He is, because he's being used as this chess piece in the Browns offense. Yeah, I will get to questions soon, I promise. I promise I'll get to questions soon. I'm going to talk through my thoughts on the game quick, high-level thoughts on this London time game. I will get to so many questions, and we already have some questions prepped as well. But yeah, Harold Fannin, I'm fine starting this week. I like him as a sleeper at tight end. I know the tight end position is bleak. It's about as bleak as it gets this week at tight end. Let me pull up the tight end ranks here for both live streams. I think Fannin comes in around tight end 14. I do like his props over 3.5 receptions. I do like Fannin over 3.5 receptions. Not quite as much as the Judkins line, but I do think there's value there. With Cedric Tillman out, it might be Harold Fannin that actually benefits the most. He's been playing slot receiver. Like he's their number 2 or number 3 receiver this season, the way that they've been using him. So if a receiver goes down, like he might actually benefit a lot. He's playing a different role than Njoku. I prefer Fannin over Njoku this week. It's really tough to start Njoku right now. Judy's not really a guy I want to start here in this matchup either. The Vikings have been the number 1 defense versus receivers this season. They're missing their starting linebacker, but we have not really seen a good receiver game outside of Metcalf, who took one big catch from Metcalf last week. I did tell people to bench Metcalf last week. That was an L, but it came on one big catch. Metcalf has not had a great role. I think it was his largest target share of the season, Metcalf, at 23%. I mean, that's just not the type of role that's a must start. Yeah, Judy's definitely not a must start here, even with Tillman out. I think Fannin's a sleeper, obviously not a must start. Judkins is the only must start for the Browns. And the Browns defense, also a must start. Definitely start the Browns defense. On the Vikings side of the ball, obviously we're starting Justin Jefferson. He ranks a bit lower than usual here in week 5. I think he ranks around wide receiver 7. We got guys like Jacoby Myers projected ahead of him, which is definitely a bit strange. Might look back on that negatively as we watch this game here on London time. I'll pull up the wide receiver ranks here. But Jacoby and Pickens, specifically project really well with their situations this week. But yeah, you're starting Justin Jefferson, obviously. There's not really another easy start for the Vikings. TJ Hawkinson, I'd rather start Harold Fannin than TJ Hawkinson right now. Jordan Mason, I know there's a bunch of Jordan Mason start sits. We're going to get to those. He's a pretty risky start here. The Browns, I mentioned, they might have the best defensive line in the NFL. We have really not seen running backs do well against the Browns. This is almost like a bench your receiver against the Broncos and Pat Surtain secondary situation from last year. Jahmyr Gibbs, he managed to go over 15 points, but Josh Jacobs didn't. Chase Brown didn't. Derrick Henry didn't. David Montgomery didn't. David Montgomery had 1 point last week against this Browns defense. He had 9 carries, 1 point for David Montgomery against the Browns. Jahmyr Gibbs had 15 carries, also 2 targets, and he ended up scoring a touchdown. Obviously, Jordan Mason is no Jahmyr Gibbs. His ceiling, Jordan Mason's ceiling in this game realistically is around what Jahmyr Gibbs did last week, maybe even a little below. His floor is like 5 points, maybe. So he's not a guy I feel great about. He projects okay because he's going to be the lead back in this offense. The other problem with Jordan Mason, though, he doesn't have a great receiving role still. Even with Aaron Jones out, he still doesn't have a great receiving role. He had 3 catches last week, but he only ran around 30% of the passing plays, about the same role he had when Aaron Jones was in. Like he ran 16 routes. That was a season high. But yeah, his route participation is really not that encouraging. His target share is really not that encouraging. He has 1 game over a 10% target share this season. He has no games over 3 targets. There's not a huge receiving role here for Jordan Mason, especially if the Vikings fall behind. And on top of that, he's playing the Browns defensive line. I'd really prefer to bench Jordan Mason, but I know in week 5 here, with all the buys, he's not a guy everyone's going to be able to bench. And he's going to project better than a lot of guys you're going to ask about, and we're going to have to start Jordan Mason. Jordan Addison, is he forming the best wide receiver duo in the NFL? He comes back week 4 after missing the first 3 games for suspension, instantly goes over 100 yards. 4 catches, 114, played almost every single snap. Adam Thielen, he barely played. He played 15% of snaps. Adam Thielen under half a reception at plus odds in this game is actually pretty interesting. He's barely playing. He's going to play a couple snaps, so his prop will be live, but he's really phased out now with Jordan Addison back. They're playing Jalen Naylor over Adam Thielen, which I think makes sense. This sneakily might be the best wide receiver duo in the NFL right now, or at least up there in the conversation. That's pretty much it for the Vikings. We're starting the receivers. Jordan Mason's going to have to be started. Everyone else, you pretty much have to bench. You basically have to bench. The Vikings defense is live here as well. I like the Browns plus 3.5. I like the Browns money line as well. I think this should be a close game. I see no reason the Browns can't compete in this game with how bad Flacco's been. All right, that's my thoughts on the game there. Let's get to some London time comments here. I'm going to prioritize the London time start sit questions. And there was a bunch I got ahead of time in the Discord. Again, all of the subscribers to the Walter Picks app, guys, the Walter Picks app is a free app. If you haven't used it yet, you're just not giving yourself the best chance to win your fantasy league or your player props. It comes with a completely free 7-day trial. But if you do the premium subscription in the Walter Picks app, you also get access to premium subscriber-only Discord channels where I'm directly chatting in, and the entire Walter Picks projections team is directly chatting in all week. And you're also going to get prioritized your comments here on these lives as well. All right. We're going to get to some London time questions now. Fannin over Juwan and Njoku. Yeah, so let me go to the must starts, must benches really quick, because if you got a London time start sit today, you cannot be relying on Juwan Johnson. Absolutely not. Do not rely on Juwan Johnson. I am leaning towards Juwan Johnson being out right now. Right now, we're projecting him in the Walter Picks app. We docked his target share a lot, but Taysom Hill's back this week, way earlier than I expected before the season started. It sounded like Taysom Hill might not be back to like week 12. Week 5 here, he's already returning. Not a normal human, Taysom Hill. I'm seeing people ask for the running back ranks. Let me pull those up. So Juwan Johnson, he's also questionable, though. He might not play. I think he got a limited practice in on Friday. So yeah, I'm playing Fannin over Juwan and Njoku. Yep, I'm doing it. 100%, I am doing that. Let me pull up the running back ranks here. On the TikTok live. Guys, shout out to everybody in this live stream already here with me on London time this morning. Seriously, I appreciate you guys a ton. Nothing better than football Sundays, especially when we got a game kicking off extra early. And we saw it last week. People hopping in the live after the game, after the early time game started, asking, should I start Kenneth Gainwell? People asking, should I start Jaylen Warren? Because Jaylen Warren was ruled out suddenly before the game last week. And obviously they took L's in their fantasy leagues because they're not up on London time like us. All right, let's get to some more of the comments here. Yeah, I do like Harold Fenton as a sleeper, especially in a spot like this. I'm starting him over Juwan Johnson. I'm starting him over Njoku as well. And no, I don't think Taysom's better than both. I did add Taysom in a lot of leagues. I do think Taysom Hill is worthwhile of a bench stash, especially if you have deeper benches, especially if you're struggling at tight end. If he has like the type of role he had last season, he really can be a cheat code in fantasy. And it's not like the Saints have the best quarterback situation. Like Taysom Hill, there's a world he's the best quarterback on the Saints at some point this season. There's definitely a world where that's the case. And you're getting a starting QB, at tight end. That's just ridiculous. All right, let's get to some more London time start sits. I'm going to get to so many start sits, I promise, on this live stream today. I'm going to prioritize the London time start sits because this is why we're starting the live stream early, is to talk about this London time game before it starts, before it's too late. All right, this is an interesting one here between Mason and Tony Pollard. I'm going to pull up a start sit comparison here too with this London time game that I think had Tony Pollard in it on the TikTok live as well. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, here we go. Tony Pollard, Jordan Mason. I saw someone else I think this actually came from the Discord. We had Tony Pollard, Jordan Mason. Someone also had a Chase Brown decision within here as well. So I'll talk through all three of these guys here on the live. So yeah, I just mentioned talking to Jordan Mason, like he's going to project better than some of these options. You're going to have to start him over this week. It feels gross. His projection, his median projection actually lines up kind of with what I was saying anecdotally, just looking at the matchup tab. For Jordan Mason, if you guys are watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. I'm telling you, it's a better viewing experience on YouTube because I can pull up comments on screen and I can share screen to the Walter Picks app. So like we're looking at Jordan Mason's matchup tab right now. We're looking at all the running backs that have played the Browns so far this season, and it is not pretty. Like Jahmyr Gibbs has a season high against the Browns at 17.7 last week. That took him, he had 15 carries and 2 targets, and he scored, and he got 17.7. It was like, I think, the worst game of the season for Gibbs. Jacobs didn't even hit 15 points. Chase Brown, Derrick Henry didn't do it. David Montgomery went for 1.2 points last week. And Jordan Mason's worse than all those guys, maybe outside of Chase Brown. Chase Brown projects a little bit better than Mason here because he has a slightly better matchup against the Lions. It's not like the Lions are an easy matchup either. I would play Jordan Mason over Tony Pollard, though. I don't know how we trust Tony Pollard. Tajay Spears is back. Tony Pollard already didn't have a great receiving role, surprisingly, this season. Like his route participation was really strong. He has the 5th highest route participation in the league. He's run the 7th most routes among running backs, Tony Pollard, in the NFL. He's like very quietly had one of the biggest roles in the entire NFL so far this season, and he still has basically done nothing. No games over 14 points this season. And now he's not going to have the best role in the NFL because Tajay Spears is back. Pollard is like definitely borderline must bench this week because of that. It is the best matchup of the season for Pollard. They have a kind of a tough schedule. Top 12, they played 4 top 12 defenses versus running backs this season. Looking at this, so there's maybe some hope there. I think he still, leads this team in carries for sure. He probably has around the same rushing role, a slightly lower rushing role, like around 14, 15 carries is what I would expect for him today if this game is close, which it might not be. But the target volume, he had 7 targets over the last 2 games. Almost no chance he matches that, I don't think, with Tajay Spears back. See, I think I would go Jordan Mason over Tony Pollard. I think I would do it. It feels gross, but I think it makes sense. The matchup for Pollard is so much better, though. Man, it's tough. The role for Mason, I think, will be better. The matchup is better for Pollard. The offense is better for Mason. Like I did mention, though, too, the Vikings, they're missing 3 starting offensive linemen. Man, as I talk through this one more and think through this one more, this is not an easy start sit. You got the Vikings missing 3 starting offensive linemen against the number 1 defensive line in the league and a running back that really doesn't catch many passes in Jordan Mason. How do you start that guy? I think I honestly changed my opinion. I think I would go Tony Pollard here. I think I would go Pollard and Brown over Jordan Mason. I think we got to bench Jordan Mason. Like at all costs. We honestly, this median projection we have for him in the app here, like I feel like this is closer to his ceiling. If he scores a touchdown, he'll go probably over 10 points. And if he doesn't, he's almost definitely going under 10. He had 10.2 last week in a much better matchup versus the Steelers. Yeah, I think you got to bench him. I'd start Pollard over Mason. I changed my opinion here. Talking through this one more, you can't start a guy behind 3 backup offensive linemen and the best D-line in the league. Guys, if you're in the YouTube chat, I promise I'm going to get to as many comments as I can. I'm not going to get to your comment if you're spamming the chat. There's no need to spam. You're up on London time. I'm going to get to a ton of comments. Fannin or Schultz? I already answered a Fannin question here. Let me go back to the tight end ranks here on both live streams. Let me know in the comments too what rankings you guys want to see next. I do have every position ready to go here. We're locked in here for week 5. I don't know why I can't get the comments going on the live here. TJ or Goddard and half PPR. I'll get to that one too. Seeing that in the TikTok live. But yeah, I think I'm going Fannin over Schultz. Schultz projects well, man. His prop lines are pretty low. It's a good matchup for the Texans today. The Ravens are missing, I think, 6. It's 5 or 6 of their defensive starters. 5 or 6. Their defense already has not been playing well. They've had injuries already so far this season, but this is the most injured they've been to go into a game. Schultz has not had a game with at least 9 points yet, though, this year. He did a back-to-back games with 5 catches. His snap percentage is rising. He's more of a floor play, though, to me. God, look at these disgusting tight end graphs. I think I would go Fannin personally over Schultz. It's close, though. I think Schultz is safer. Fannin has a higher ceiling, in my opinion. With Cedric Tillman out, I really think you might be getting a wide receiver 2 in your tight end slot here with Fannin. TJ or Goddard and half PPR. Yeah, so on the YouTube live, I'll pull this one up. I think it's got to be Goddard. Yeah, I'm going Goddard over Hawkinson. I don't think we can really start Hawkinson today. Ravens' entire team is hurt. Yeah. Jared, we will get to the DK lineup, I promise. We're focusing on the London time game right now. If you are doing DK on the London time game, someone asked for receiver ranks, I think, or no, running back ranks. I'll pull up the running back ranks again here on both live streams. If you are playing DK on the London time game specifically, I think all the guys I mentioned that I liked the most would be my favorite plays. So that would be Fannin, Judkins. Honestly, Dylan Gabriel maybe is kind of a sneaky one, talking through that with how bad Flacco's been. And then Jefferson and Addison for the Vikings. Hawkinson or Waller. Yeah, Darren Waller comes back and storms onto the scene immediately. He looked exactly like the Darren Waller that we last remember, just scoring touchdowns in the red zone. He was tight end 4 last week, guys. He was the 4th best tight end in fantasy football in his first game back in years. He only had 3 catches, though. He only played 27% of the snaps. And we talked through these on the live so far this season. Keandre, we're going to go game by game here in a second. So we will get to, I'll have more than 6 good picks. I'll have like 15 good picks talked about coming up here shortly on the live. But we're over 61%, by the way, on these picks. My favorite pick of each game so far this season. But we talked about these situations so far this season, and we've been right almost every single time. We saw it with Judkins earlier this year as one example. When guys come back, they are starting out in a smaller role for whatever reason. They haven't practiced a lot. They've been injured. They've been out of the game for a little while. They just signed their contract 2 days before the game started, for Judkins' example. The role you see in that first game, that's their floor moving forward. There's no way Darren Waller has a smaller role here in week 5 than he had in week 4. There's just no chance. Given all the situations, circumstances, I'm not saying he's going to do better in fantasy necessarily because he scored twice. That's going to be hard to replicate, but he's going to play over 27% of snaps. He's going to play. He's going to run around on more than 40% of the dropbacks. He's probably going to have a higher than 15% target share. That's all really positive for Darren Waller, like being startable here in fantasy. He's playing the Panthers. They haven't been great against tight ends this season. And then on top of that, all that, Tyreek Hill's out. We just saw Hunter Henry. He was a top 10 tight end against them. Trey McBride, Brenton Strange. We've seen pretty much consistently you're a top 20 tight end when you play the Panthers. Only 2 of them have scored, but they're allowing the second most yards per game to tight ends in the NFL. So yeah, I'd go Waller. Yeah, for sure. Over Hawkinson. Judkins or Ladd at flex. Yeah, we're not benching Judkins. There's no benching Judkins. I don't think there's going to be a start-sit question where I tell someone to bench Judkins here. And the Ladd situation is definitely one of the most difficult for me to wrap my head around this season because I talked about we're in week 5, guys. We're a month in. We got a lot of data. We can't just ignore the month of data we have. This is the most valuable data set we have to try to project the rest of the season. This is why this is one of the most fun parts of the season. We got the bye weeks hitting, and we have like a lot of information to really make quality decisions now moving forward. And the Chargers receivers got to be some of the toughest decisions still to me because you can't just completely ignore the larger sample size we have going back to last season, especially with a guy like Ladd so early in his career who was balling last year. But I think the reality for Ladd, he's a very talented player. He's just not going to be this massive target share earner when he's in situations like this. Quentin Johnson took a much bigger step forward than people expected. Keenan Allen is now taking on a bigger role than I think a lot of people expected. The Keenan Allen thing wasn't surprising to me. The Quentin Johnson thing definitely was. But the reality is Ladd McConkey is now just going to be this highly efficient, lower volume player. He's still going to have a ceiling every single week, but he has one game over 20% target share this season. We can't ignore that. We definitely cannot ignore that. So yeah, I definitely would go Quinshon Judkins over Ladd in a situation like this. I still think the ceiling is there, but yeah, I wouldn't force it with Ladd either. And the fact that I'm like confidently starting Quentin Johnson over Ladd McConkey is wild stuff, but I think it makes sense. I really do think it makes sense. It's hard not to. With what he's been better every single game. He's 4 for 4 this season. And would I be surprised if Ladd McConkey from week 5 and on is the number 1 receiver for the Chargers? No, it wouldn't be that shocking, but it's just not going to be on this massive volume. He's going to be on less volume than we saw him get at stretches last season, unless Keenan or Quentin Johnson miss time. And Njoku or Theo Johnson. Yeah, Theo Johnson's the sneaky one this week. I did get a Theo Johnson Discord question as well. Someone was looking to add a tight end. By the way, I will get to so many of the Discord comments that are sent. Those are our subscriber-only Discord channels we have. If you do the Walter Pick subscription, you're already at a massive advantage in your fantasy league for player props. But on top of that, you also get early access to the comment section of this live stream and to the entire Walter Picks team all week. Another reason that the Walter Pick subscription is honestly, it's way too underpriced. We got to raise the price. And Njoku, or it's a free 7-day free trial too, wild stuff. And Njoku or Theo Johnson. All right. I think that I honestly lean towards Theo Johnson here. I don't know how I was like borderline ready to drop David Njoku in one of my leagues this week. The schedule isn't bad. He hasn't had a game over 10 points. He's playing a pretty good role at the tight end position, participation wise. He's top 10 in snaps. He's top 10 in routes. The volume though has really just not been super encouraging. Maybe Dylan Gabriel changes that a little bit. Part of the reason I was hesitant to drop him, when you get a QB change, like the roles can change a little bit. The target shares definitely can shift around with a new QB in place and his favorite guys. But yeah, last week was rough. 9% target share. He had 2 air yards. He's not looked that explosive this season either. 9.1 yards per reception. He's at 1 yards per out run. Like I prefer Fannin over him. I honestly think I probably would go Theo Johnson over him too. Theo Johnson's like kind of a sneaky sleeper here. With Malik Neighbors out, he did score last week. His snap percentage went down a little bit, but he had a season high target share in Jackson Dart's first game. That's definitely notable. Like this could be a Jackson Dart guy here. I think the ceiling is definitely higher for Theo than Njoku in this game. Back to Pollard or Chase Brown PPR. Yeah, gosh. I think I think I'd probably go Chase Brown over Pollard. Man, it's a tough call. Definitely a close one. Let me go back to the wide receiver ranks here. Pull up the wide receiver ranks on the live as well. Mason Taylor or Fannin, Rico or Woody? We're going to get to this London dime question here. It's Mason Taylor. Yeah, it's Mason Taylor, I think, over Fannin. Mason Taylor, let's compare these two. I do like Fannin a lot in this game. I mentioned he's probably my second favorite prop, over 3.5 receptions in this one. Mason Taylor is like sneakily the wide receiver 2 for the Jets right now. If you want to count Breece Hall as wide receiver 2, I'm cool with that too. Yeah, it's like Breece Hall or Mason Taylor as wide receiver 2 basically for the Jets. Obviously neither of them are receivers, but they're playing that role essentially. Mason Taylor's looked good. It is hard to ignore any rookie really that's going to start the season like really well and be like a fantasy starter. It's notable. It's extra notable at tight end though. Like what Mason Taylor has done so far this season, this is going to be a legit fantasy viable guy for many years to come. And he's definitely viable right now for the Jets in the spot versus the Cowboys. You're going to want pieces of this game. We're going to talk about this game here coming up in a couple minutes. But yeah, you want pieces of this game. He's coming off a career best volume game. We were on this prop, by the way, on Monday Night Football. Guys, if you're into props and you're actually wagering like a decent amount each week, you got to do the free trial on the Walter Picks app. It is going to help you win more. We had a huge week last week. I think we were up 4 units just last week alone. Mason Taylor was one of the easiest props of the week last week. But yeah, this one's close. I think I said Mason Taylor initially, but looking at the projection here, I actually think it's Fannin. I like both these guys though, and I think Mason Taylor is definitely sneaky one. All right. Let's get to some more of these London time questions. Rico or Woody is definitely Woody. That one's not close. Not close. AJ for a Dunze. Oh, man. Yeah, we're going to talk about these Eagles receivers, but I do think I would prefer Dunze rest of the season right now. I would, Matt. Yeah, I would. I was already not super high on Sean Tucker. This isn't like a surprising report to me. Rashad White expected to get vast majority of touches. Yeah, I've seen that report. I think it's exactly what we're projecting. Bannon or Ertz. Yeah, you got to go Ertz. You can't be benching Ertz. Judy or Franklin. This is a good one here. Judy's definitely a really, really rough start in this game. Like, we can't feel great about Judy. Franklin's role has been good. His production's not been there, though, the last couple of games. Yeah, back-to-back games under 10 points. He's still playing a decent amount. Snap percentage went down. He's got at least 8 targets in 2 of his last 3. The target share has been kind of consistent. The air yards have been there as well. I think I would go Judy in this spot, though, over Franklin. Yeah, I think I would do that. Vikings or Colts defense. Yeah, let me pull up the defense ranks here. The Browns and Vikings are very, very in play here this week. I think I personally would probably start the Browns over basically everybody with 3 starting offensive linemen out for the Vikings. The Colts rank number 2 for us, though. So, yeah, I think it's the Colts over the Vikings. The Vikings also are in the top 6. BTJ seems too high still. Yeah, gosh. He's another one. We're talking about, we've got a ladder BTJ question here in the YouTube live. Well-timed with the TikTok live comment as well. But yeah, I still think Brian Thomas Jr. is startable and should be started in a lot of situations. I have him up there in tier 5. He's in tier 5. He's actually 1 spot behind Ladd in the rankings this week. So I actually would go Ladd. All right, another tight end question here. A lot of tight end questions here heading into the London time game. Mason Taylor, Fannin Jr., or Juwan Johnson? Yeah, so I think I mentioned Juwan earlier in the live. You could not rely on Juwan Johnson this week. He might not play. Juwan Johnson straight up might not be playing this week. Like, he's questionable. Pat, how we doing? Yeah, I think I would go Fannin in that last start sit. I'm definitely playing Fannin over Juwan. What are we going to do with the Pats can pull off the win tonight, Pat? Yeah, you're almost getting me to jump to my takes for that game. You got to stick around for my takes for that game because I love this question from you. I was thinking of similar thing here this morning. I guess just a quick. No, I'm not going to jump to it. I'm not going to jump the gun. We're on London time, Pat. We're going to get to the Pats game. It's the night game too. It's going to be the last game I talk about. But very, very excited to talk about that. Very excited for the game, obviously, as well. DeMercado, Judy, Fannin, Coleman at my final flex slot. Still can't make the decision after using the start sit tool. Leighton, first of all, shout out to you for being on London time this morning. Shout out to every single person in this live stream for being on London time this morning. Start Taysom if Jawan is out. No, Ruben, we're not doing that. We can't start Taysom in his first game back. It's a new coaching staff from the past too. We got to see what the role is for Taysom before we start Taysom. I have him on like most of my leagues. I'm in 8 high stakes fantasy leagues, like 12 total fantasy leagues. He's probably on like 7 or 8 of my total rosters, but I'm not starting him in a single one. I do think in a lot of leagues, Taysom should be rostered though, especially if you're struggling at tight end. Like if you're starting Brenton Strange right now at tight end, like you probably do want Taysom Hill on your bench. DeMercado is a trap. Michael Carter is a trap. They're the most obvious definition of fantasy traps that exist. Starter goes down, Trey Benson goes down, James Conner goes down. Okay, so now people just fully expect Michael Carter and DeMercado to be something like what we had from Trey Benson and James Conner. It's just not going to be the case. It's an extremely risky start. Michael Carter, Amari DeMercado, maybe one of these guys ends up being a good start, maybe. But at least one of them is going to be complete bust and be a really, really bad start as well. Like I definitely start Judy over both of them. For example, I don't feel good about Judy at all. Michael Carter, it has a good matchup. He's probably going to get the first crack at it. But it's going to be a 3-way backfield, plus Kyler's going to run. Judy versus Keon Coleman's an interesting one too. Outside of James Cook and Josh Allen, there's really not a Bills player you can trust in your starting lineup. It's a pretty weird situation with one of the best offenses in the league. Yeah, Keon does project a bit better than Judy. Judy projects with a higher ceiling. I actually think their ceilings are kind of comparable, especially given the matchup here for Judy. So yeah, I would go Keon here. I'd go Keon over Judy. I'd go Keon over Fannin. I'd go Keon over DeMercado. I want nothing to do with DeMercado in my starting lineup. New to the chat, Phil, how we doing, man? Jacoby Myers, DeMercado, or Marks? Not a London time question here, but yeah, I do think Jacoby Myers and Marks is like they're like 4 or 5 tiers ahead of DeMercado. Jacoby Myers, he's a tier 1 wide receiver in the wide receiver ranks this week. Let me pull the wide receiver ranks again here. Literally, he's tier 1. Like he's ahead of Justin Jefferson in the ranks. And I agree with that. He's wide receiver 5 in the ranks. There's no Brock Bowers today. There's no Michael Meyer today. It's a great matchup as well. And the role's been really strong for Jacoby. He's a very, very underrated role in the NFL right now. We'll look at him later when we get to that game. But then Woody Marks also just an absolute smash start. Like there's really no benching Woody Marks in the spot versus the Ravens. Their entire defense is injured, and Woody Marks' role is growing. Woody Marks has looked really good. Woody Marks is the best receiving back they have on that team as well. So Woody Marks is a must start. I probably would go Jacoby over Marks, but man, it's close. It's really close. Diggs or Jordan Addison? Here's a good London time question on this London time week 5 live stream. We got Diggs versus Jordan Addison. I want to start Diggs this week, guys. I really do. This is a revenge game narrative that it's really hard for me not to buy into. I go back and forth with these revenge game narratives. I often am in on the revenge game narratives. There's no statistical evidence backing up the revenge game narrative, and it's still hard for me not to get in. You know, I'm the guy sitting here with a math hat, and it is hard for me to not buy into this revenge game here for Diggs. So I pulled up Mason. Definitely an easy start for me over Mason, Stephon Diggs. But Addison probably projects a decent bit better here. He did go over 100 yards last week. Wow, Diggs projects better still than Addison too. So my heart and the math align here. Yeah, it's Diggs. It's Diggs. It's hard to ignore Diggs last week as well. First game over 100 yards. His snap percentage did rise a little bit last week too. The Pats didn't even throw very much last week. His target share was ridiculous. 41% target share for Diggs, only 7 targets. I think the Pats threw the ball like 15, 16 times last week. The game was a complete blowout. Obviously not going to be the case here in week 5. So yeah, I'm going Diggs. I'm going Diggs over Addison. And if last week was any indication, this should be the snap percentage floor for Diggs here against the Bills. It's a revenge game narrative. They're huge underdogs. Obviously, they need to win this game. And they're going to be playing from behind. Ben, this is facts here, Ben. You got to teach the new people in the YouTube chat. There's no need to spam. There's absolutely no need to spam. And the more you spam, the less likely the question gets answered. Browns defense or Seahawks defense? Any thoughts? Please and thank you. Kind of stuck on it. Yeah, Jonathan, this is not an easy one. The Seahawks have a very underrated defense. They're getting some of the most pressure. They're top 3 in pressure rate in the NFL, the Seahawks defense. Like, they've actually been like really good. I think not many people they're not getting much national attention, obviously, the Seahawks. Their offense has been much better than people expected. Their defense also has been pretty good. Like, they haven't really had a bad fantasy game. They had 6 points in week 1, then 22, 14, 11. And now they get the Bucks. But yeah, I still think it's the Browns. The Browns are playing a Vikings offensive line without 3 of their starters. The Browns have had only one good game, but they played the Bengals, the Ravens with Lamar, and then the Lions. They've had a ridiculous opening schedule. They played the Bengals with Joe Burrow fully healthy. Then they played the Ravens with Lamar fully healthy. Then they played the Packers, who they beat. And then they played the Lions. I mean, was there a rougher opening schedule than the Browns had? I mean, I know the Giants' schedule was tough, but man, I know the Chiefs' schedule was tough. But this is rough here for the Browns. Now they get the Vikings with missing 3 of their starting offensive linemen. So yeah, I'm going with the Browns. Possible London question here from Alvin. Do I have kicker rankings? I do not get kicker rankings ready for this live stream, but there is kicker rankings in the Walter Picks app, and you can see the projections in the Walter Picks app for free. Like, you can do any comparison and see projections for free. There's some premium features that are well worth starting a 7-day free trial for, but you can see the rankings in the Walter Picks app for free if you go download the Walter Picks app if you need some kicker help. All right, let's get to this question here from Alvin. Shout out to you, Alvin, on London time this morning. So should I drop Mercado and pick up Fannin or Schultz? Both are available. Fannin was just dropped for Waller. Yeah, I would definitely rather have Fannin on my roster than Mercado, especially if you're not going to start Mercado, if you're not like in a really rough pinch in a deep league. Like, I'm in a 32-person league with the Walter Picks creators, and I'm starting Mercado and Michael Carter in that league. But obviously that's much different. You know, the waiver wire is as bleak as it gets. I mean, people are literally adding like Tom Brady off the waiver wire in that league. But yeah, I'm definitely would rather have Fannin. There definitely could be like a sizable shift in Fannin's role with Cedric Tillman out. And Dylan Gabriel starting too could definitely shift things around. Yeah, I was thinking about, honestly, Waldo, I had this exact same question this morning myself. Looking at a roster, I have Trey McBride starting in this league. I have Juwan Johnson on the bench. Juwan Johnson his values just like took a huge plummet so fast. He went from like, he's in one of the best roles in the NFL, which is why he's really tough to bench. And why, you know, a lot of people are asking start this with him. Like, look at this role he's been in. He's tight end 10 on the season, but he has the 3rd most catches among all tight ends, 7th most yards among all tight ends. I mean, he's been fantastic. Last week was rough against the Bills, but he had 3 straight games with at least 11 points. He's playing every single snap. But now he's questionable. He's questionable. He might not even play this week. And then he's got 2 tight ends coming back. Foster Moreau has a real chance to have a role on this team. He had a role last year. He could be annoying for Juwan Johnson's role. Like, what if the Juwan Johnson role was just because all these other tight ends were out? And I thought Taysom Hill was going to be out months longer than he is. He's back today. He's not startable today. But it's not hard to see a ceiling for Taysom Hill higher than Juwan Johnson. I ended up not doing it. I kept Juwan Johnson and didn't add Taysom Hill, but I think we're like 1 week away from potentially doing that. But yeah, I think we got to see if he plays too. Do I have 3-man prop? Yeah. So I talked about my thoughts for this game. There were 2 props I shared for this game. As I go game by game here coming up momentarily, I got a favorite prop in every single game that I'm going to share. But yeah, my favorite props, I'll give you my 3 favorite props in this Browns game. Let's actually pull this up in the prop evaluator in the Walter Picks app. Again, if you guys are serious about props, especially if you're wagering a decent amount every single week, you got to try the free trial in the Walter Picks app. It is an absolute cheat code for props. We've had 5 straight profitable seasons with the props in the Walter Picks app. And that's just the ones we're identifying from the projections team. And there's tons of valuable edges to be found outside of those ones as well. All right, we're going to filter to this game. I like the Fannin prop personally, and I like the Judkins rushing line as well. Judy's over receptions. Look at this ridiculous odds here we're getting. This Thielen under half a reception, I think, is very interesting as well. Getting plus odds on the Thielen under half a reception. Look at the odds difference here. Wow. Between half a reception and 1.5 reception. But yeah, I like this under half a reception for Thielen too. Looks like we identified this one this morning. But he barely played last week with Jordan Addison back. He still had 2 catches for 11 yards, but he played 15% of snaps. He played 12 snaps. Jalen Nailor's playing ahead of him. So I do like the Adam Thielen unders. Jordan Mason receiving under is definitely interesting here as well. So those are some third props to consider. But yeah, my 2 favorites, Judkins over rushing and Fannin receptions over 3.5 at plus odds for Fannin. And again, I'll get to my favorite player props every single game here coming up momentarily on live. Guys, if you are on London time with me this morning and you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. For those of you who've been around a while, this is year 5, week 5 of these Sunday morning lives. And it took 5 years and we got a new camera. We finally got a new camera. We've done well enough on this live stream. We've earned a new camera. Hopefully you guys are enjoying that quality increase here on the YouTube live. And I still think there's like a definitely non-zero chance this camera overheats and dies at some point in the live, but we're doing well so far. Hopefully with Dart starting and Hill getting hurt, maybe that'll open up some tight end to be solid for the rest of the year. I don't know what this Dart and Hill, maybe Neighbors. Maybe we're talking about Neighbors, not Hill. These things seem disconnected. Woody or Keenan with the Herbert stack? Yeah, I'm playing Woody. Yeah, for sure. All right. I'm going to try to get to the last minute questions here. Jimmy, how we doing? Ramondre or Njoku at flex? PPR, half PPR tight end premium here as well. Appreciate you, Joey. Yeah, I would go Ramondre over Njoku. I think I would go Ramondre over Njoku. And my entire team is injured / on bye. Kareem Hunt or Josh Downs. I live for these weeks, honestly. This is what I do it for, man. We're in week 5. Your whole team's on bye. You got injuries. And like, this is to me the most fun part of fantasy football, where you have to make these types of decisions. And this is like when you end up looking back at the end of the season, oftentimes you look back and like, these were the decisions that lets you making the playoffs, winning your league or not. This is what it's all about, man. And this one's easily Josh Downs. It's not really close. I actually have Pacheco and Kareem Hunt both as must benches this week. Brashard Smith is looking like his role is going to keep growing. He's the most exciting running back they have. If Kareem Hunt doesn't score, he's going under 10 points. His median projection here is at 6. Josh Downs has been really frustrating for fantasy because we know Josh Downs is a good player. We have a big enough sample size, not so dissimilar from Ladd, honestly, like a lower scale version of Ladd a little bit this season. We know Josh Downs is a very good player. I mean, he balled last season. He was one of the most efficient slot receivers in the league last year. His yards per route run 2.3. I mean, that's an elite number for a slot receiver. This year, though, he's just not playing as much. And Tyler Warren is like the focal point of the Colts passing attack. Even though the Colts are balling, they've been one of the best offenses in the league. We have not seen Josh Downs go over 11.1 points. But it's a good matchup for Downs today. Like a very good one against the Raiders. This is the best matchup he's had all season. This game's projected to be kind of oddly close. I think it's actually the second biggest spread of the week. I take that back. It's a 7-point spread. Yeah, they've been cooked by receivers this year. So yeah, I think it's Downs easily. I think Downs still has like a higher ceiling than we realize. Also, if Adonai Mitchell's actually in the doghouse and not going to play much, maybe that helps Downs. I know they play very different roles, but maybe. London question, Fannin or Strange? Yeah, it's got to be Strange. Fannin is a good replacement for Brock. I'm in on Fannin. I like him over 3.5 receptions today. I think Cedric Tillman being out is good for Fannin. And I think he is a good replacement for Brock. And guys, the late round tight end strategy, looking at the top tight ends here in week 5, post Thursday Night Football, obviously, the late round tight end strategy was an absolute smash this year. It was Trey McBride or late round tight end. And Trey McBride hasn't even been like that great for fantasy. The role's been there. He has scored. He's tight end 4 though. Like, he's not even in the top 3 yet. He's second in catches, second in yards, but he's tight end 4. He hasn't had a 20-point game yet. Like, he hasn't really been that positional advantage to really justify like a really early pick yet. Bowers is hurt. Kittle's hurt. Late round tight end strategy was an absolute smash. Ferguson projects as tight end 3. Tyler Warren. I have McBride in his own tier, tight end 1, tier 1 for tight ends. Tyler Warren, Jake Ferguson, they're in their own tier of tier 2. There's huge gaps here in the tiers. And then it goes to Kelsey. I have Kelsey, Ertz, Strange, Laporta, and Henry all in tier 3. So like anywhere from Henry to Kelsey, pretty good starts here, tight end here in week 5. Yeah, Strange predicts as tight end 6. Strange is getting a little underrated, I think. Back-to-back games with at least 6 catches. He hasn't scored yet this season. but he's back-to-back games with at least 6 catches. I think he led the team in catches or yards last week. Tough matchup versus the Chiefs, but yeah, he's definitely startable here. Yeah, I think I would go Travis Hunter here as well. Definitely going Jacoby. Do you have wide receiver projections ready? Of course. I got all the projections ready. We are so dialed in here for week 5. We're at my favorite point of the season. My favorite time of the year, if you guys know me well, it's draft season. We're past my favorite time of the year. Now we're in my second favorite time of the year, which is like we're a month into the season. We have so much quality data to make the right choices, smarter choices than the rest of our league. Part of the reason too that I think fantasy football is the best game, like one of the best games in the world. And a lot of people don't think about it this way, but you really you have to be better than the rest of your league at making these decisions. Right? That's the thing in your control. And I really think you can be a lot better than the rest of your league with the start sit decisions, the draft decisions, the trade decisions, the ad drop decisions. That's exactly why I built the Walter Picks app to help us all make those decisions as best as possible. Bannon or DeMercado. I'm not starting DeMercado. Just a no thank you for me for DeMercado. Yeah, no thanks. Same thing with Michael Carter. I would start Carter over DeMercado. They're saying Bam Knight is going to have a chance in this backfield too with a hot hand approach. I found it very funny that the Vikings said they're going to, or not the Vikings, sorry, the Cardinals said they were going to go with a hot hand approach. Well, I mean, I think the odds are there is no hot hand here. Like, what happens if you go with a hot hand approach? You don't have a single hot hand. You got DeMercado, who's a scat back, a third down, like clear pass down back. He's probably, his ceiling of carries in this game is probably like 5 or 6. Like, he's not going to get carries. And then Michael Carter, he's going to be the early down back. He was literally on the practice squad a few weeks ago, guys. Like, we've seen games from Michael Carter before, but this isn't a guy that you can lock into your starting lineup like confidently. And then Bam Knight, like Bam Knight could lead this backfield today in yards. It wouldn't be that surprising. Yeah. All right. Last minute question with London here. Start to Judy, Devonta, Henderson, or Stevenson. Oh, these Henderson questions are going to get me this week, guys. The Henderson questions have been so tough all season for me. And I don't know how we possibly start him today. Judy, this is actually a really interesting one. Judy, I'm going to put Ramondre in here instead of Henderson because I would start Ramondre over Henderson. Though I do think, honestly, looking at this question, Cam, thinking about it, I'll pull up the QB ranks, seeing some people ask for the QB ranks. I think the QB start sits are honestly maybe the easiest of all the positions this week. Do I have the QB ranks? Well, maybe I didn't screenshot the QB ranks on the TikTok live. Let's see if I have them. Pull up the must-starts. I do have the QB ranks ready to go on the YouTube live. If you want the QB ranks, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. I'm telling you, it is the better viewing experience. I can pull up comments on screen. On the TikTok live, you have to be a TikTok live subscriber to comment this Sunday morning, but obviously you'll hear all the content for free. Shout out to everybody in both live streams, by the way. Seriously, appreciate every single one of you here on London time with me this morning. We got a game starting very, very soon. 4 minutes away here. Time's flying here on London time. So I think in this one, honestly, like I might just go Henderson and Stevenson. This Pats-Bills game is one of the highest over-unders of the week. Antonio Gibson is involved in the backfield too, which is like pretty annoying for fantasy for both these guys. But you're going to get 75% of the backfield for the Pats against the Bills. Like, that's not bad. That's a pretty high floor ceiling and high ceiling play, in my opinion. So Devonta Smith projects the best here. Judy project. I honestly think you just go with 2 running backs, especially if you're in a relatively close projected matchup. I'd be fine doing it in this spot against the Bills. The Pats are 8-point underdogs. They're going to have to put up points to keep up in that game. I got the QB ranks up. Fields or Daniels, Herbert or Daniels. Yeah, Daniels is not an easy guy to bench. Even in his first game back. Like, oftentimes you will hear me say, let's give these guys 1 game back and make sure that they are the same as they were. I think Daniels is an exception probably to that. I don't think Daniels would come back if he wasn't going to be able to play his normal role. We'll see how much he runs. Is always something to watch out for with these rushing QBs that miss time. Fields took no time to start running again, though. Like, the thing is, if rushing is a huge part of your game, you can't just stop doing it. Like, Fields can't stop running. He will be one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL if he isn't able to run. So off the concussion, 81 rushing yards, rushing touchdown. Fields finishes top 4 QB. So yeah, there's only 5 QBs I'm starting over Jane Daniels this week. It's Fields, Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Mahomes, Josh Allen. I could see an argument that we have Jalen Hurts too high, but with the tush push and the squeaky wheels in the pass game right now for the Eagles, I think you kind of have to start Jalen Hurts in most spots too. I'm benching Jordan Mason in a spot like this. All right, you have 2 minutes to make this start sit. Get Jordan Mason out of your starting lineup if you have Jameson Williams instead. I'm playing JMO. Zay Flowers can't be started this week either. Can't be started. There's no Lamar. I would go Fannin over Schultz personally, yeah. Mason, Chase Brown, or Marks. This one, Carter, it's definitely Woody Marks. It's 100% Woody Marks. And then I definitely go on Laporta too over Fannin. And I like Fannin. I like Fannin a lot. As a sleeper type, I think you still go to Laporta over him. Laporta has a great matchup this week too. This could be a huge week for Laporta. He's actually in my Draftkings lineup here in week 5. I'd go Shaheed, yeah, over Naylor. I'm going Rashid Shaheed over Jalen Naylor. All right, this game's kicking off in a minute. Oh, God, man. I'm not going Michael Carter over Jordan Mason. I think I would go Mason. Both these guys are really, really risky, though, in my opinion. All right, I think that's it for the London time games. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button. We're only an hour in. I'm going to start going game by game through the rest of the games now. And then I'm going to get back to all the comments. We're going to get so many comments here on the YouTube and TikTok live. Make sure I didn't miss any London time games. AJ Brown or Derrick Henry. I think you've got to go Derrick Henry over AJ Brown. All right, let's go game by game here through the rest of these games. Week 5, we got a bunch of buys. We got a bunch of injuries to talk through as well. So I already talked about my London time. Let me just recap quickly for everyone who's just tuning in. My London time take for this London time game. I think I would take the Browns. Money line, the Browns, plus 3.5. Dylan Gabriel can't be much worse than Joe Flacco. He really can't be much worse. Joe Flacco's outside the top 32 in completion percentage. He's outside the top 32 in yards per attempt. He is top 5 in pass attempts and outside the top 20 in yards and touchdowns. I mean, it is really tough to be that bad, to be that inefficient. So Dylan Gabriel, he can't be much worse here than Flacco was. I think that's why the Browns made the choice to go with him. You know, why not see what you have here with Dylan Gabriel, who I think most likely his best case scenario long-term in the NFL, he was picked at the end of the 3rd round in the NFL draft, is like he's a capable backup here for the Browns long-term. He's not going to be the future for the Browns. I'd be pretty surprised. He does run like a little bit more than Flacco, so something to watch. Both Addison, Jefferson went over 100 yards in Addison's first game back. Definitely something to monitor. They sneakily could be the best wide receiver doing the league. I think Fannon's a sleeper with no Tillman. My favorite prop was Judkins rushing yards and Fannin receptions. Best day of the week, man. It is the best day of the week. We've got a London time game kicking off here too. Love these Sunday mornings, man. I really do. All right, let's get to the Texans at Ravens. The Ravens are missing 5 defensive starters. 5 defensive starters. Half their defense is out. And these are some of their best starters too. Their defense already has not been playing well. They've already been dealing with injuries, to be fair. But this is one of the worst performing defenses in the NFL, the Baltimore Ravens. They're missing 5 of their starters. And Lamar is out. And their starting left tackle is out. And the Texans, they're only favored by 1.5. Someone explain this to me. There's many spreads today that really surprised me. This is one of them. Honestly, this Browns-Vikings spread kind of surprised me a lot too. This is probably the most surprising though. Like how are the Ravens expected to make this a really close game? I know they have Derrick Henry. Like Derrick Henry's definitely startable here. Mark Andrews projects his tight end 9. I don't feel super safe starting Mark Andrews. Zay Flowers ranks as wide receiver 22. I don't feel super safe starting Zay Flowers. Cooper Rush is in at quarterback. I have absolutely no faith in Cooper Rush. I don't know how we expect much from Cooper Rush. He got thrown in last week. Did complete 69% of his passes, 4 yards per attempt. It was a really small sample size. It was against the Chiefs. But this Texans defense is not bad. It's actually been a really good defense. Number 2 defense versus quarterbacks this season. So it's basically Derrick Henry versus the Texans today. And the Ravens are 1.5-point underdogs. I don't want to start any of these Ravens players except for Derrick Henry. Personally, I really don't want to start any of them. I think Andrews and Flowers come with a ton of risk. And then on the Texans side of this game, there's very, very few players this week that I want to start over Woody Marks. Let me pull up the running back ranks here on both lives. Woody Marks ranks as a top 10 running back right now on the week. And then honestly, it might be low. It might be too low. I already had the running back ranks up on the YouTube live. This might be a low rank for Woody Marks. The Ravens have been dead last versus running backs this season. We just talked about they're missing 5 starters on the defense. They're averaging over 30 points per game to running backs. Even Pacheco went for 12.8 last week against the Ravens. Like the Chiefs running backs who have done nothing this season, they combined over 25 points last week versus the Ravens. And Woody Marks is coming off obviously his best game of his career. Woody Marks is like right now my best ball savior. Woody Marks was one of my most drafted running backs in best ball because I thought Joe Mixon had a huge chance not to play this entire season. He was on the do not draft list for me this year. And Woody Marks was still free for some reason. Nick Chubb was like rising up draft boards off the Joe Mixon news during draft season this year. And Woody Marks kind of wasn't. He was available in round 14, 15, 16 in these best ball drafts. So I had a lot of him. And that's looking really good right now. He played 56% of the snaps. That was a season high. Definitely still room to grow there in terms of the snap percentage. But he also led the team for the first time in route participation in the backfield. He's the best receiving back they have. But I don't know why we would expect Nick Chubb to get pass game work over Woody Marks. Nick Chubb is not as good of a pass catcher as Woody Marks is. Woody Marks had a good receiving profile out of college. This running back class, by the way, is really starting to pick it up. Woody Marks was he had 90th percentile college receiving production. This is one of the best receiving running back classes of all time. I really think this still might be one of the best running back classes of all time, of my lifetime. I don't know if you guys saw that stat at the end of last week, but it was the most rushing yards total from a rookie running back class ever in the month of September or something in a week. Kind of a random stat, but does point to the rookie running back class is starting to pick up some steam. We just saw that with Quinshon Judkins over the last couple of weeks too, who might be the best rookie running back on the ground right now. So Woody Marks is an absolute smash, must start. You really can't bench Woody Marks. My favorite prop in this game is Woody Marks over 2.5 receptions. Like we just mentioned, Ravens are getting crushed by running backs. They're allowing the most catches per game. Not only are they allowing the second most rushing touchdowns per game, the Ravens, they're allowing the most catches per game to running backs this season. Over 7 catches per game to the running backs. And Woody Marks is going to lead the Texans in running back targets today. So I like Woody Marks a lot. And I like the Texans to win this game and to cover this 1.5 point spread also. I really don't understand the spread that much there. The Ravens, it's not like the Ravens have this good defense. Lamar's out. Their starting left tackle's out, and half their defense is out. It's kind of a surprising spread to me. All right, on to the next game. I see a Woody Marks. Let me get to this Woody Marks question here from Nolan in the chat since I was just going in on Woody Marks here. Got pick 3. Yeah, you probably have to bench. You're probably benching Tet here. We'll get to some of these other. I like Tet. I actually think I have Tet in my must start list this week. Yeah, he is in my must start list. But I think you might bench Tet. You're definitely starting Jamar. I'm not benching Jamar. I'm not benching Woody Marks. So it's between Debo and Tet. It's close. I do really want to start Debo, as well. So I think I probably would bench Tet here. But all good choices. There's a lot of start-sit decisions today that are all bad choices. There's a lot of all bad choices out there this week. This is not one of them. Definitely not one of them. I'll pull up the QB ranks, yeah, for sure. If you're watching live on TikTok too, come to the YouTube live if you want to see the QB ranks. Link is right in the TikTok bio. All right, let's get to Isaiah Bond. Almost made a play there. I think the Browns just went 3-0. All right, let's get to the next game. We will talk through the Dolphins to the Panthers. First chance to talk about Tyreek Hill being done for the season. Rough one, obviously, for Tyreek. The report came out, I think, yesterday that the Dolphins plan to release him after the season too. We'll see what's next for Tyreek if he's even able to come back. Really rough injury there. But with Tyreek out, an already consolidated offense is really going to consolidate even more. Maybe Darren Waller steps in and takes some of that. I think that's fair. He projects a top 12 tight end this week. He started. We talked about it earlier already with some of the tight end start-sits and London time questions. But Darren Waller, his role is only going to grow from last week. He only played 25% of the snaps. That's his floor. He only had 4 targets. That's his floor moving forward, 15% of the target share. last week in his first game back after being out over a year. And he scored twice. That's going to be tough to replicate, but yeah, he's startable for sure. He's definitely startable. But Jalen Waddle is the guy that is going to benefit the most. Waddle, Malik Washington, and Devon Achane, these are the biggest winners of the Tyreek Hill injury. We've only seen one game from Waddle without Tyreek since they've been teammates. He went over 30% target share in that game. Last week, Tyreek went down. He had his highest target share of the season at 23%. We're projecting 25% target share this week. He's not hit that once this season. The role for Waddle, the floor and the ceiling for Waddle are much higher now. Much higher. He's a guy I really, really want on my fantasy teams right now. And is pretty much a must start, like every week moving forward. And Devon Achane, I think there is a real argument that Devon Achane and Jordan Mason cooking here. We could have a Kenneth Gainwell-like situation here with Jordan Mason on London time versus the Browns. Devon Achane is in the conversation to be the number one running back in fantasy football rest of season. I feel like no one's really talking about this much. But Devon Achane absolutely benefits from the Tyreek Hill injury as well. He's already had one of the biggest receiving roles among all running backs. He's got the fourth most catches. He's run the fourth most routes. He's got the second highest target share among running backs in the NFL. It goes McCaffrey, who's at 27%. Actually, might be higher than this for McCaffrey. I think this might still be calculating. God, he had not only 19% target share, but 9 targets. He's over 10 targets a game. I think the only player with more targets per game than McCaffrey is Puka Nacua right now. Ridiculous stuff here for McCaffrey, which is why Achane's in the conversation to be running back one, but he isn't the running back one in projections. But would I be shocked if it ends up being Achane when we look back? It wouldn't be that crazy with the role that he's in right now. He only had 2 targets last week, and he's still at the top of all these receiving numbers. So let's go to the Panthers side of this game, though. Malik Washington, by the way, I don't really want to start Malik Washington this week. I'm very curious to see what the role looks like for him. I do think he is the next guy up here for the receivers, but they have not played him like a real receiver this season. He's seen no air yards. His air yards rank 104th in the league. He's getting these gadgety type plays where they give him some carries, some quick screens. He's being used more like a running back. If he doesn't run real routes, I think the floor here is low. I really don't want to start Washington unless you really, really need to this week. But he is rosterable. There's definitely a ceiling story you could tell yourself. On the Panthers side of this game, though, I do think Ted's a must start. Man, I guess you do have to start Ted in that previous question. Maybe you do play Ted over Debo. I really want to start Debo too, but Ted projects top 10. Really underrated guy in fantasy right now. Hasn't had a touchdown yet. No touchdowns yet for Ted. But he has the 15th most yards per game in the NFL. He's locked in as the alpha wide receiver one. He's going to score touchdowns. He's way better after the catch than I still think most people realize as well. He's the 13th most yards after the catch in the NFL right now. Does Ted McMillan. So you really do have to start him. Dowdle, I think is a trap. He's not as much of a trap as Michael Carter is this week, but I don't think Dowdle is just thrust into this workhorse role. I actually think his ranking this week is arguably a little too high. The tough part about Dowdle, and we got a good Dowdle question here to jump to here, is if you guys have start sits specifically about the games I'm talking about too, definitely toss them. Are your rankings who you would start people over like ETN over Walker and Ted? Yeah, they are. Yep. The positional rankings are set up that way. Switch over to the wide receiver ranks here. Let me actually go to the running back ranks as I talk about Dowdle. But yeah, I think Dowdle has definitely some trap potential this week. I don't think he's going to be in this workhorse role. Chuba Hubbard wasn't in a workhorse role. The Panthers, since this coaching staff has been in place, haven't really been wanting to give workhorse roles. Chuba Hubbard had a pretty large role last year, but that was after some injuries. This year, it's been a pretty even A-B split between the first guy and the second guy. Dowdle's been that second guy this season. He's got a 35% snap share on the season. Chuba Hubbard's played in all these games. I think Trevor Etienne is going to step into the Rico Dowdle role. Rico Dowdle is going to step into the Chuba Hubbard role. But this Panthers offense has looked awful. these guys might need to score touchdowns to really produce in fantasy. And the only reason for hope for Dowdle, and the only reason I think this ranking is somewhat reasonable for Dowdle here with Chuba Hubbard out, the matchup's great. The Dolphins' defense has been one of the worst defenses in the NFL. They're in the bottom 10 in terms of defenses in the NFL right now. This defense has been atrocious. For as much heat as Mike McDaniel has got, like, I think it's almost entirely defense related. This team actually, the offense has actually been pretty good for the Dolphins this season, like above average offense so far this season. But the defense has been bottom 5. They're allowing over 100 rushing yards per game to running backs. They're allowing the 3rd most receiving yards per game to running backs. Like they're in the bottom 3 in the NFL in total yards per game allowed to running backs this season. So that's good news for Dowdle. They've only allowed 1 rushing touchdown, which is a bit surprising. Probably just variance there. But Trevor Etienne, I think is an interesting sleeper. If Dowdle's a trap, that makes Etienne an interesting sleeper. Because if Dowdle is a trap, it's because Trevor Etienne, who, yes, is Travis Etienne's brother, like kind of a sneaky sleeper here in the Dowdle role. Dowdle's in the Chuba Hubbard role, Trevor Etienne in the Dowdle role. Trevor Etienne, 60th percentile college receiving production. He's got 94th percentile speed. Like he's a decent receiving back. So he might have a bigger role. He has been their kick returner this season. So interested to see him play more. But yeah, I think Dowdle's like borderline trap worthy. I'm definitely playing Genty over Dowdle. I think Dowdle projects maybe better than Genty. Yeah, he does. I'm playing Genty over Dowdle, like pretty easily. Pretty easily. Yeah, the ceiling, at least in the app, is higher for Genty than Dowdle. But yeah, Dowdle's just like a pure volume play with Chuba out. I'm not buying it fully. Dowdle, Sean Tucker, Trey Tucker, or Theo Johnson. This one's probably Dowdle. I'm definitely not playing Theo Johnson here. I'm definitely not playing Sean Tucker here. Sean Tucker's also a trap. There was a report literally that White's going to get a huge role. Rashad White. You can't start Sean Tucker. Trey Tucker, though, I could see an argument here for Trey Tucker. There's no Brock Bowers. There's no Michael Mayer this week for the Raiders. So that does increase all the target shares really across the board for the whole team. Ian Thomas is their top tight end right now. Huge run there for Judkins. We absolutely love to see that. Great start here for the Judkins prop. 3 straight weeks here for the Judkins prop. He's already at 37 yards. About half the way there to his prop line in the first quarter here for Judkins. But yeah, I do think you go Dowdle. But I think Trey Tucker's ceiling is higher. I do think the ceiling is higher for Trey Tucker. But we've seen the ceiling, obviously, for Trey Tucker. He's probably never going to get this ceiling again. 41 points. Not many running backs will have, not many players, period. Even if we include quarterbacks, are going to have 40-point games this season. That's the type of ceiling we get with Trey Tucker, though. So yeah, I mean, the ceiling mindset in my mind does kind of make me want to go Trey Tucker here, but Dowdle does project better. He is safer for sure. Talking through this game, my last thoughts on this game between the Dolphins and Panthers. Dolphins are only 1.5 point favorites. The Panthers just got obliterated by the Patriots last week, like absolutely annihilated. Game was not close. Like third quarter, game was over against the Patriots. It's not like the Patriots are some powerhouse. So yeah, my favorite prop in this one too is the Malik Washington under yards, receiving yards. Like I mentioned, he's just not running like real routes so far this season. We'll see if that changes, but I'm willing to bet on the under here from Malik Washington. And I'm a little surprised the Dolphins are only 1.5 point favorites in this spot. All right, Cowboys and Jets. The Cowboys, they're only 1.5 point favorites in this one. They just went head to head with the Packers. We were completely unstoppable against one of the best defenses in the NFL. I still think the Packers defense is good. Like I was really confused after that game. I'm sure I'm not alone. Like, is the Packers defense good or are they not good? Are they elite must-start defense every week or are they not in fantasy? I mean, I dropped some fab on them in some leagues. I was unwilling to drop them on their bye still. But the Cowboys defense was completely unstopped. Sorry, the Cowboys offense was completely unstopped by the Packers defense. Now they get the Jets, who have been not good across the board this season. They're allowing top 10 points per game to quarterbacks. Dak just dropped over 30 points against the Packers. We saw Rodgers go for 25. Baker and Tua both went over 15. Josh Allen only 11, but that game just was not close. So I'm surprised the Cowboys are only 1.5 point favorites. I know this game's in New York, but still. Breece Hall, he's an RB1. right now. We're starting Ferguson, we're starting Pickens, we're starting Javonte, we're starting Dak. All these guys are starts. Dak ranks honestly kind of low this week. I think he's startable though. He's like definitely the end of a tier, I think, at quarterback. Let me pull up the QB ranks here again. Haven't seen any Dak questions yet. But Dak or Daniel Jones, he's a good one. Let me go to the QB ranks here. I do think I'd go Daniel Jones over Dak. Somewhat close. But yeah, I think I would go Daniel Jones over Dak. Pull up the QB ranks here. It's close. I honestly think we might be a little like this tier from like really Daniel Jones through Dak. Like Dak to me is way ahead of Bryce Young. He's one spot ahead of Bryce Young, but to me, I'd start him like so much more confident than Bryce. I'd probably start him over Geno also. But I think I would go Dart and Daniel Jones over Dak. I would start Dart over Dak too. The rushing floor for Dart is really strong. I think the ceiling for Dak is higher though. All right, let's get to, and we got a fan in touchdown. Let's go. Let's go, Browns. We talked about the Browns plus 3.5 money line, Judkins rushing line, and Fannin receptions line. Too early to celebrate. Definitely too early to celebrate, but it's a good start. Michelle, Fannin TD. Shout out to you for letting me know in the live. I am locked into the live, so I won't get to see the whole game. Just looked at the rankings between Jones, Dart, and Goff. But Goff's bust problem makes me so nervous. What are your thoughts? Yeah. Jones and Dart definitely have a higher floor than Jared. Jared Goff might not need to throw. He might not need to throw this week. It's part of my fear with the Amon-Ra St. Brown ranking this week too, though. You kind of have to start Amon-Ra. Hey, Michelle, thanks for letting me know the fan in TD. I got you. Oh, wow, Mason fumbled. I didn't even see that. That makes sense how the Browns got the ball back so fast. So I will get your start sit, Michelle. I do appreciate it. And I already talked about this Texans-Ravens game too, and I didn't even really talk about Nick Chubb starts. I think you do go Chubb over Justice Hill. Man, this is a tough call. Justice Hill is coming off a huge game. But I talked about the Ravens without Lamar. Gosh, I think I do go. I think I would go Chubb. The matchup for Chubb is better. Backup QB in for the Ravens. Let's do this. We got the comparison up. Yeah, Chubb's floor is a little bit safer. The ceiling is higher for Justice Hill. It makes sense. Justice Hill has way better receiving potential. Assuming this is a PPR league too. He had 5 catches last week for 41 yards. It's possible too with the backup QB. We see more checkdowns. Keaton Mitchell's supposedly going to be active. This week. We'll see if that impacts Justice Hill at all. But yeah, I think you go Nick Chubb. I don't feel great about either of these guys. The ceiling is higher for Justice Hill though. So Michelle, if you're like down big in your matchup, then maybe you do go Justice Hill. If not though, I think Nick Chubb's a better option. It's a close one though for sure. Fannin was always the right start. Yeah, looks like we got a lot of Fannin starts from the London time, guys. This is why we lock in on London time. We're locked in, man. Yeah, I felt pretty good about Fannin being a sleeper here in week 5. Good to see him get an early touchdown in this game. I think he still only has 1 catch, so still need a little bit more from him for the prop. Let me refresh this here, the stats. Yeah, it was his 1 catch, 1 yard touchdown. And Njoku had a 12-yard catch as well. But Judkins already over half his way to his prop as well, so love to see that. And yeah, hopefully the Draftkings lineup's off to a good start there too. Dylan Gabriel, I think I mentioned too, being kind of sneaky. Yeah, this is always the thing with Goff. Like if that game is close, and we're going to get to that game here coming up in a second, that Lions-Bengals game. I actually think that game could be close. Like I won't be that shocked. I still have like more confidence, I think, in the Bengals offense than like most people. And if they can keep that game anywhere close, yeah, Goff is going to explode. The whole Lions offense is going to go absolutely crazy. So the ceiling is definitely there. Yeah, it's a floor ceiling choice. It's not like the floor is awful for Goff too. It's definitely possible that they just go crazy running. The Bengals have maybe the worst run defense in the NFL. All right, let's get to. We talked about the Cowboys Jets. Yeah, so Breece Hall is like he's an RB1. He might be an RB1 rest of season. I think Breece Hall is honestly one of the more underappreciated running backs in the NFL right now. I've long called, really since Breece Hall came into the league a few years ago, like he's a Saquon Barkley clone. That's the type of player Breece Hall is. I don't say something like that lightly. But when you look at his numbers since he came into the league, I mean, he's top 5 in all the receiving metrics every single season. And the season's no different. He's running back 3 in target share right now. We talked a lot about this before the season too. I know Seth, No BS Fantasy, and our Steelers creator, talked about this before the season too. This is an insight that actually came from him. Justin Fields checks it down way more than people realize. He actually throws the running backs at a similarly high rate to Aaron Rodgers. A lot of people were scared that there wasn't going to be a lot of targets for Brees with Justin Fields starting, and that was definitely uninformed. Brees Hall's top 3. He's ahead of Gibbs, Bijan, Saquon in target share right now. There's no receivers on this team outside of Garrett Wilson. It's either Mason Taylor or Brees Hall that's running back wide receiver 2, basically, for this team. And now Braylon Allen's out for probably the entire fantasy season. They said, I think 8 to 12 weeks. Guys, that's the fantasy season. That's it. It's over. Hopefully Braylon Allen comes back healthy. He's still super young. He's only 21 years old still. I think he just turned 21. Yeah, it's 21 points. He's not even 22. So hopefully he's able to come back. But yeah, I think Brees Hall, top 10 running back probably rest of season. Definitely top 10 this week. I honestly think we might have him ranked a little low. And Isaiah Davis, I think, should be rostered in basically all competitive leagues with real bench spots. If you got enough bench spots, 5, 6 plus bench spots in a 12-person plus competitive league, Isaiah Davis should be rostered in that league. Isaiah Davis is a pretty exciting prospect who we've seen be a capable receiving back. We know the Jets aren't going to give Brees Hall a massive, massive workload. They're still going to play 2 running backs. But we just saw this backfield consolidate from 3 to 2. We know Justin Fields throws the running backs a lot. Isaiah Davis can catch passes. He's an explosive player in his own right. One of the higher upside handcuffs all of a sudden is Isaiah Davis. Not startable. But yeah, I think he's not well known by the general NFL audience, and he has a pretty high ceiling if Brees Hall were to miss time. But yeah, you want to start players in this game. This has one of the highest over-unders of the week. The Cowboys are just a dream for fantasy football right now. They have the worst defense in the NFL. They've stopped literally nobody. They have not stopped a single person this season that they played. Just starting the quarterbacks that have played against the Cowboys, and you got a top 3 quarterback, maybe top 2 quarterback so far this season, outperforming Josh Allen. The lowest point total has been Jalen Hurts with 24, and he only had 152 pass yards in that game. That was week 1, the opening night. Justin Fields definitely a good start this week. Top five option this week. All right, that's the Jets and Cowboys game. I think some pretty obvious starts, across this game. My favorite prop in this one is Javante's over 16.5 rushing attempts. I'm still a little. I don't fully understand how the Cowboys are this small favorites in the spot. I know the defense has been bad, but the offense has also looked unstoppable against a really good defense. Coleman, Ridley, or Trevion Henderson here from Colton. Colton, good to see you back in the live, man. Oh, God, I think you go Coleman. Ridley's completely unstartable. Completely unstartable. You cannot start Ridley right now. We already talked about that Raiders. Sorry, we haven't talked about the Titans-Cardinals game. Let's actually jump to that. We'll jump to that in a couple. We're almost there. We're going to go to the Raiders-Colts first, then Giants-Saints, then we'll get to the Titans-Cardinals. But you can't start Calvin Ridley. Absolutely not. Shout out to everybody in this live stream right now watching while you tune into the London time game. I appreciate you guys taking the dual screen approach to London time with me on this Sunday morning. It's the best day of the week. Seriously appreciate everyone in here. Takes 2 seconds to hit the like button on YouTube and to hit the follow button on TikTok. I do appreciate that. Helps us out a ton. All right, so on to this Raiders-Colts game. Both Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer are out of this game. I think Bowers he hasn't officially been ruled out, but there was a report saying he's not expected to play. And he also himself said this week he's not been playing at 100%, which explains a lot of the Bowers results so far this season. That makes Jacoby Myers a top 5 play. Jacoby Myers, I mentioned it earlier in the live and to start sit, told you that we'd get there. We're there now. Quietly, one of the better receiver roles in the league. He's 15th in target share. He's averaging over 8 targets a game. He had a 35% target share last week. He has not scored a touchdown. So he's only at 11.7 points per game. But 5 catches, 65 yards a game. That is one of the better receivers in the league, production-wise, role-wise. Now Bowers is out. Bowers was getting a 25% target share. Michael Mayer is not there to back him up. Michael Mayer would have projected as a top 10 tight end if he was at full health and Bowers was out. But they're both out. Ian Thomas is the backup, the third string tight end on this team. They have someone named Carter Runyon. Looks like they get Albert O, who maybe he'll be active today. They got no legit tight ends really behind these two guys. And they're playing the Colts, and they're 7-point underdogs. So they're going to have to throw. See, I like Jacoby. You can't bench Jacoby. There's just no benching Jacoby. Genty coming off his best game as a pro, by far. We were on that one last week. Had him in the Draftkings lineup last week. He was running back 1. Hard to expect him to repeat that here against the Colts. Obviously not as good of a matchup. They're going to be playing from behind more. But it was good to see the snap percentage go back up to 85%. The route participation was some of the highest we've seen. He had a season high carries, career high carries. Only 2 targets. Only 11 routes, too. But the route participation was at least encouraging. They're going to need to get Genty more involved in the pass game for him to meet the fantasy expectations. But Genty's a start this week. He's a must. He's near a must start, even in the tougher matchup. Tyler Warren is in his own tier tight end. Let me go to the tight end ranks here. Right there with Jake Ferguson. Him and Jake Ferguson form tier 2 of the tight ends this week. There's no Brock Bowers. So McBride's in his own tier. And then it goes Michael Mayer Tyler Warren and Jake Ferguson. I think Tyler Warren, he's not getting enough appreciation because of Brock Bowers last year. We've all been spoiled with the greatest rookie tight end season of all time from last season with Brock Bowers. And it feels like people aren't really waking up to maybe the second best rookie tight end season ever, in the works here, maybe the best. He's still in the cards, guys. Tyler Warren is in the cards. We got a touchdown to the Vikings. Looks like the backup tight end for the Vikings. Josh Oliver scores. We got a game here. Browns defense seems to not be off to the best start. They did force a fumble in the first drive, at least. I was looking at this this morning, though. How far off really is Tyler Warren from Brock Bowers' rookie season? Well, let's take a look. Brock Bowers, if we go back to his rookie season, he averaged 4.8 catches and 56.3 yards per game. Sorry, this season. It was higher than that last season. 6.8 catches, 71.5 receiving yards per game. This was the greatest rookie tight end season of all time by both these metrics, catches and yards. 6.8, 71.5. All right, let's go back to Tyler Warren. 6.8, 71.5 for Brock Bowers as a rookie. Tyler Warren's at 4.8, 66. He's only 5 yards behind per game in his first 4 games as a rookie to Brock Bowers' entire season last year. He's two full receptions behind. He's not that far behind, guys. The greatest tight end season of all time. And this is his first month as a rookie. He could get better. He could actually do it. In back-to-back seasons, he hasn't scored a receiving touchdown, but he's getting rushing work too. He got 2 tush pushes basically last week. So yeah, Tyler Warren's an absolute smash right now and in his own tier kind of with Jake Ferguson in tier 2, a tight end right now. One of the best late-round tight end picks for sure this season. Jonathan Taylor is my favorite prop in this game, over 19.5 rushing attempts. I do think the Lions handle business here, and they're my second favorite survivor pick of the week. I got to be honest, guys. We're 4 for 4 with the survivor picks. We've kind of breezed, honestly, through the survivor picks so far. I'm alive in my one survivor pool, and there's only 3 of us left. I think that we started 20 plus in my survivor pool. There's 3 left. A bunch of people had the Rams on Thursday night. A lot of people lost last week with the big upset. I think a lot of people lost when the Browns beat the Packers as well. And those weren't any of my survivor picks. I'm really struggling this week between the Colts and the Lions. It's the Colts or the Lions. These are the 2 survivor picks of the week. These are the only 2 I would really consider. I'm not going with the Arizona Cardinals versus the Titans. I think that's a trap. They're 7.5 point favorites. I think that's a trap. But it's, to me, the Colts. I'd be really surprised if they lost here to the Raiders at home. No Brock Bowers in this game. The Colts offense has been clicking. The Colts really should have won last week. Their only loss. The Raiders have 1 win. That came against the Pats in week 1. Not a really impressive win. But then you got the Lions versus the Bengals, who we're going to talk about, but it's really tough to see the Lions losing that one too. So I am going with the Lions as my official survivor pick, but if I were to go a second one, it would be here with the Colts. And I went back and forth a lot on that one. I do have a creator code, Thomas. Yeah, shout out to you. Creator code Sam. Use code Sam. You will get access to a completely free 7-day trial if you use code Sam in the Walter Picks app. Yeah, completely free. Appreciate you using the code. Does help me out. See a bunch of the comments here. We will get to them. All right, let's get to the next game. That was the Raiders and Colts. Jonathan Taylor over 19.5 rushing attempts does feel like that's near his floor. His floor is probably 16, 17 carries. And the Colts are pretty big favorites, 6.5 point favorites. I think they could cover that spread. And if they do, they're definitely getting Jonathan Taylor 20 plus carries. All right, Giants and Saints. Then we'll get to the Titans Cardinals. That we only got a few games left because we got buys this week. We're almost there. I think we're in the late window actually already. This might be the end of the early window games. We got, we're a couple early. There's 2 early games left, I think. Actually, just one. This is the last early game. No, there's 2. We got the Broncos Eagles as well. Titans Cardinals, are they no, they're late window, yeah. Really, I might have skipped over the Eagles game by accident. All right, Giants at Saints. Saints are 2.5 point favorites. The Saints, Spencer Rattler and the Saints are 2.5 point favorites. Really? Another just surprising spread to me. There's been now 3 very surprising spreads to me. This spread, the Saints are 2.5 point favorites. It's all these home teams that I think are getting too much credit and too much value for playing at home. The Saints are 2.5 point favorites at home. The Jets are 1.5 point favorites at home against the Cowboys. The Dolphins are only 1.5 point favorites in Carolina. The Texans are only 1.5 point favorites against a Ravens team that's missing half their good starters. And this Browns spread was a little surprising to me too. And this has been a close game, at least so far. The Browns were 3.5 point underdogs. But yeah, this one's again surprising to me. To me, the Giants better than the Saints. I think the Giants win this game. The Saints are one of the few winless teams left in the NFL. The Giants were the big upset last week too against the Chargers. A lot of people had them in the survivor pools. Yeah, it's just the Saints and the Titans. These are the Saints, Titans, and Jets are the 3 winless teams. And the Saints and Jets are like close to favorites or in close projected games this week. I think both don't make a ton of sense to me. Dart has a really strong rushing floor here. I'm pretty comfortable starting Jackson Dart, even with no Malik Neighbors. Obviously, Neighbors being out for the season is a huge deal for the Giants. To me, though, that's it might even raise Dart's rushing floor. It's just going to become a bigger part of the offense. He had 54 rushing yards here in week 1. Bandon's got his second catch. Love to see that. Just 2 more in 3 quarters for Fannin. We cashed that prop. Judkins prop looking pretty good here as well. Love to start week 5, London time. That's what I'm talking about. Last week, took a bunch of L's with my expectations for that game. So far, we're starting pretty good here in London. Go into the rest of the games this week with some momentum. But 10 carries for Jackson Dart in his first start. The only QB over 10 carries per game so far this season is Jalen Hurts. Dart could lead the NFL rest of season in carries per game at quarterback. He could do it. He's looked pretty good running the ball this season. Big Judkins play, but there's a flag. Hate to see it. But yeah, so Dart is like a floor play. I don't know what the real ceiling is here. It's not a bad matchup for him against the Saints. So I think the ceiling isn't awful. But I do expect to see some Dart starts this week, and I think Dart is pretty safe. He's a good option. He projects better than Dak Prescott. I think he's a higher floor, arguably, than Dak. Man, a big holding penalty there for the Browns. It would have been a huge run by Judkins. He would have cashed his prop. Looks like he was Fannin that got the holding too. Rough. Hopefully we didn't jinx the props here. Fannin gets benched for a holding. Okay. So Dart's a good start for sure against the Saints. The Saints are not a scary defense. They're not a scary team. Again, I'm surprised the Saints are 2.5 point favorites in this game. Josh Allen just had 26. We saw Mac Jones go for 22. Kyler had 18. The floor for Dart is 15, 16 points. Cam Scatterbo is a must start for sure. I saw some Cam Scatterbo questions. There's very few guys I really want to bench for Scatterbo. By the way, in chat, I'm always horrible with the pronunciations. Is it Scatterbo or Scattaboo? Because I keep hearing people say Scattaboo. But to me, it reads Scatterbo. I feel like I've also heard people say Scatterbo. I say Scatterbo. Is it Scatterbo or Scattaboo? Someone please tell me. Chat, please tell me. Scattaboo, Glenn is saying. Yeah, everyone's saying boo. Okay, it's Scattaboo. It must be Scattaboo. Thank you, chat. I appreciate you, chat. That flag just killed me too, Jordan. Sam, talk me out of starting Taysom over Ertz. My team is decimated by injuries and Bengals players. Also pick 2, Henderson, Brown, Kendra Miller with return yards. Yeah, I'd go Ertz over Taysom like pretty easily. You can't start Taysom in his first game. You just can't do it. It's a new coaching staff. The floor for Taysom is 0 points. That's his floor. The floor for Ertz is well above 0 points. Decimated by injuries and Bengals players. It's rough out here, man. The returns yards one here, I think makes Henderson definitely more startable. And I think I probably would go, Chase Brown versus Kendra is honestly tough. My heart says Kendra, and I think that the projections are going to say Chase. I'm definitely going Stephon Diggs over Chase, yeah. All right, let's get back to this Giants-Saints game's last thoughts. Is Kendra just straight up greater than Alvin Kamara now? There was a report this week that didn't specifically mention Alvin Kamara, but a pretty notable report that the Saints are shopping their veteran players. And what veteran players are teams actually going to want to trade for? It's like a list of one. It's Kamara. That's it. What, a team's going to trade for Brandon Cooks? Like maybe there's some offensive linemen or defensive players I'm not aware of that are veteran players that teams might trade for, but it was like saying Kamara without saying Kamara. And Kendra Miller's role grew last week. It's very, very notable. Kendra Miller was a must add this week, probably one of the ads of the week. Like I wanted to add Kendra Miller more than Michael Carter, more than Rico Dowdle, even with Chuba Hubbard likely to return soon. He saw his rush share grow. He saw his snap percentage grow. And he just has looked better than Kamara in most of the games this season. Like he might just straight up be better than Kamara at this point in Kamara's career. And Alvin Kamara also has not consistently had this big receiving role yet. It's a good matchup here for Kendra too. So man, yeah, Kendra versus Chase Brown. Honestly, I think I go with my heart there and say Kendra Miller. You're taking a bit of a leap of faith that this role is going to keep growing for Kendra. But yeah, I think I would go Kendra. My favorite prop in this game, by the way, is with the Rattler over pass attempts. There's certain books with Rattler at 31.5. This is part of the reason the Walter Picks app's a cheat code. Let me actually pull it up for player props. If you guys are serious about player props or you're just starting out in player props, like I promise you, the Walter Picks app is going to be a huge advantage for you. Because even if you're doing your own research, which obviously the app can help a ton with, getting the best line, or even if you're not getting the best line, like even if you have one book, like me, I have one book. I only have Hard Rock. I live in Florida. It's a monopoly. I can only use Hard Rock, which is terrible. But I can at least know when I'm taking this line that actually Hard Rock has the best line out there. Like gives me way more confidence that I'm getting good value here compared to what other people are getting. So yeah, 31.5 here for Rattler over pass attempts feels pretty good. And like it isn't actually that good if you're getting 32.5 at these odds. Like huge difference here. But yeah, we've seen Rattler do this in 3 out of his 4 games. And we've seen teams be passing against the Giants like pretty heavily. Their defensive line is the strength of the defense. They're averaging 40 pass attempts per game against the Giants. It was Dak, Mahomes, and Herbert, to be fair. But even Jalen Daniels, he was at 30. So what the floor for Rattler pass attempts is 30, and they set the line at 31.5. Feels like a pretty good prop to me here in this game. And you can get a free 7-day trial, by the way, to that prop evaluator if you use code SAM when you sign up. Fellow Florida man, let's go, yeah. Originally from Boston, am a Pats fan, but been a Floridian now for a couple of years. All right, let's get to this one from Josh really quick before I jump to the next game. Keon, I'm going to try to mix in some starts before going game to game here. Keon Coleman or T. Higgins, Juwan Taysom or Mark Andrews. Yeah, I think you go Andrews. Juwan Johnson's not. We are not starting Juwan Johnson. Let me pull up the must starts and the must benches again here. But yeah, we can't start Juwan Johnson. He might not even play. And I think that ceiling for Taysom is going to be high. Like, it has potential to be high, but I don't think we can start him in his first game. The new coaching staff, it's hard to know what the role is going to be for Taysom. So yeah, it's Mark Andrews there for me. And then Keon versus T. Higgins. We're going to get to this Bengals Lions game here shortly. I haven't talked about this Bills game yet either. But yeah, it's Keon over T. I think you kind of have to start Jamar Chase. I still think there's hope for T. Higgins. I think there's still a ceiling for him at least, but we know the floor is really low. Yeah, Steven, I think the projections are probably going to say Carter. I'm going to say Kendra. Appreciate you guys in the comments too. Let me know what the Walter Picks app says. Saves me some time, helps me answer more start sits on the live. One of my goals every single morning before I start the live, I say, how can I answer as many comments as I possibly can answer? And this helps me do that. Would you let me know what the app says? Yeah, Egbuka, Godwin, Rashad White, they all project amazing. It's okay to start all of them. They all project really well. We're going to get to that game here momentarily as well. But yeah, I think I would start just all three. ETN's definitely like in play. I would not start Marvin Harrison Jr. though in a spot like this. I would probably just go with the three best projections. One of them might disappoint, but as a group, the three guys here, like Buka, Godwin, Rashad White, they're probably going to combine for over 40 points. Like a pretty high floor ceiling combo here. All right, we talked about the Giants and Saints. Let's get to this Titans-Cardinals game, and then we'll get to the Bucs-Seahawks. Michael Carter is the trap of the week. Yeah, Rico Dowdle is trap worthy. Like he definitely could end up being a trap, Rico Dowdle. But the real trap of the week is definitely Michael Carter. The matchup is great. So we can talk ourselves into Michael Carter. He's playing the Titans. They've been obliterated by running backs this season. They are one of the 3 0-4 teams. It's the Jets, the Titans, and the Saints that don't have a win this season. Michael Carter projects his running back 25. There's no Trey Benson. He's on IR. He's out for the next 4-6 weeks. James Conner's out for the season. And reports are out there on the first snap today, it's going to be Michael Carter. In all likelihood, he's going to start the game. But there's also reports out there that they're going to do a 3-way backfield that's giving the touches to the hot hand. Well, I got news for you, Cardinals. What happens if you don't have a hot hand? You have DeMarcado, Michael Carter, and Bam Knight. Like, which of these guys is going to have the hot hand here? I mean, maybe with the matchups, someone plays well. It's definitely possible, but any of these guys without a touchdown is probably under 10 points. Like almost definitely going to be under 10 points without a touchdown. And good luck guessing which of these guys is getting the touchdown. There's 3 of them. And then Kyler Murray runs as well. Like a little bit like a Washington Commanders situation. The Commanders have like a 5-way backfield. So it's a little worse, but I do not think Carter is safe. Given the buys this week and the injuries you're dealing with this week, there's some start sits where it might make sense to start him. Again, the Titans haven't been bad versus running backs. They're allowing the 3rd most yards, the most touchdowns. They haven't been great in the receiving game either. Woody Marks just went for almost 30 points. Jonathan Taylor exploded for 30. Kyron Williams and Corum combined for over 20. The Broncos running backs combined for over 20. But these are some pretty good running backs outside of last week, really, that we know are good. But DeMarcado, he's going to play all the pass down snaps. We saw this last week. We've seen this really so far for this team this season. There is someone in the James Conner role, the early down back, who they will throw the ball to at times. And then there's the 3rd down role and the pass game work. And that is, start as Conner and Benson. Benson went into the Conner role. DeMarcado stepped into the Benson role. Now Benson's out. I think DeMarcado stays in that DeMarcado role that we saw last week. So obvious passing downs, it's going to be DeMarcado. Non-obvious passing downs, it's going to be a mix between Michael Carter and Bam Knight. I mean, yeah, just no thing. I think a clear trap here. A clear trap. Not saying there's not upside, but the floor is extremely low. That's the trap. Is thinking there's a high floor when there's not. At least there's a ceiling, though, so I could talk myself into him in some spots. But yeah, I would start. I think I would start Ramondre over him. I'd probably start Henderson over him. Nick Chubb is close. I think that the floor for Nick Chubb is probably actually higher. RJ Harvey's close. I'd probably go RJ Harvey. And then here's probably where I would start starting Michael Carter. I'd start him over DeMarcado. I would start him over Sean Tucker, who I really don't want anything to do with right now. Justice Hill, I think I'd start him over him. I think over Spears. Kendre Miller is probably ranked a little bit too low. That's a pretty close one. I start him over all these guys too. So yeah, I mean, like he's right around running back 30 for me. Let me pull up the running back ranks here on the TikTok Live. And my favorite prop in this game is the DeMarcado over 2.5 receptions. I like Michael Carter under 2.5 receptions too, but those roles I just described, I think there's value on both of these props. Under 2.5 for Carter, over 2.5 for DeMarcado. If DeMarcado is going to be the one out there for all the pass game work, all the passing downs, I think like this is near the ceiling of Carter's receptions. Like 3 receptions, I think is about the ceiling we can see for Carter. All right, on to, we didn't talk about the Titans side of the game at all because there's really not a single Titans player we can trust this week. With Tajay Spears back, can't feel great about Tony Pollard. He's going to lose probably a lot of the receiving work and maybe some of the rush game work to Tajay Spears, who's been a really efficient running back in the past. And Calvin Ridley, he's out. He missed all of this week's practices with a knee and elbow injury. He's on track to play, cannot be started. I mean, a really rough go here for Ridley. He's been a tough guy just not to drop. Definitely can't be started. And Imanor, I saw a bunch of Imanor start sits in our Discord with the premium subscribers who have exclusive access to our Discord channel, which I check daily, and the whole Walter Picks team checks daily. Imanor feels like this guy in a really rough spot for fantasy, where he clearly should be rostered. And you can't ignore the start to a season like this for a rookie. Ridley's banged up. So like he could be the top target earner this week. He had a 30% target share last week, and he's still like not a comfortable start. He still doesn't feel great to start. Still feels like the floor is kind of low because this whole offense has been struggling. And Ridley is going to be active, but you could do worse than Imanor. You definitely can. Like he needs to be rostered for a reason. He's had a consistent role. We've seen really consistent air yards. Like he has a pretty good touchdown potential. So he's definitely startable. All right, on to the Buccaneers. They're playing the Seahawks. Underrated defense here for the Seahawks. They've definitely been getting some of the most pressure in the NFL. And we got Rachaad White is a must start. There was a report that came out early on in this live stream. Rachaad White's going to get the bulk of the work. That's not news. That's not surprising. That's exactly what we were projecting already. Sean Tucker is going to get some work, definitely some rushing work. I'd be kind of surprised if we see him get any catches, though. This isn't like a receiving back. He's going to be a base down back, just like giving Rachaad White a breather on some of the rushing plays. I think his over-under carries is at 6.5. I'd probably put him at like 5 to 8 carries. I think that over-under of carries is pretty good for Sean Tucker, and he probably doesn't get a catch. So like he's not a start. He can't be started. He probably should be rostered. We've seen the ceiling for Sean Tucker too. Like if Rachaad White missed time, all of a sudden Sean Tucker like would have a really, really high ceiling. I think he had a 40-point game last year. A 34-point game. He had 136 rushing yards and a touchdown. He had 3 catches for 56 yards and a touchdown in that game too. Only played 37% of snaps. It was against the Saints though. But yeah, you can't start Sean Tucker. There's a ceiling if you squint, but the floor is near 0 points. We do not want to start guys whose floor is near 0 points. Michael Carter's floor this week is near 0 points, guys. It's near 0 points. I think the floor for Carter is higher than Sean Tucker, though. My favorite prop in this game is the Rachaad White over 3.5 receptions. This line maybe moved a little bit since that report, but the receptions line for Rachaad White is going to be good. The Bucs have been throwing to the running backs a ton. Bucky Irving's had a much bigger role in the receiving game than I think most people realize. It's been keeping him afloat, honestly, in fantasy, despite not having huge rushing numbers this season. Look at these receiving numbers for Bucky. He's the third most catches and the third most receiving yards in the NFL at running back. Only McCaffrey and Gibbs ahead of Bucky Irving. He's got the same amount of catches per game as Devon Achane, more than Bijan. And obviously Bucky Irving's out. And Rachaad White, we know, is a good receiving back. Like Rachaad White could easily get 5, 6, 7, 8 catches in this game. Wouldn't be that crazy. And they got his line set at 3.5. So I do like this one a lot. Honestly, think this might be my favorite prop of the day. My official favorite prop of the day here. Rachaad White over 3.5 receptions. Godwin is a good start. He projects as a top 20 receiver. And I think a lot of people are going to be scared to start him. The Seahawks defense has not been bad. And last week, he only had 5.5 points. But he played 80% of snaps, way more than I would have expected. He had over a 25% target share, 10 targets for Godwin. Very encouraging. He also played out of the slot 31% of the snaps. That's also encouraging for Godwin. All of his production last season came out of the slot. He was balling in the slot. Last year, guys, he was wide receiver 2 in points per game, over 19 fantasy points per game for Godwin last year. That was with Mike Evans in the lineup. Mike Evans is out. Egbuka's in, and it was really an open question. How much are these guys going to play in the slot? They're both going to play in the slot. Godwin's going to get about a third of his snaps from the slot, which is great news for Godwin because it could have been close to 0. He had 146 air yards last week, 10 targets. Like he is startable. He's a start this week, Chris Godwin. I have him in the must-start category. JSN, the only trustworthy Seahawk. Really, really tough for the Seahawks. I know we're going to get, I've already seen them answer some of them. Zach Charbonnet questions, Kenneth Walker questions. They're rough, man. They're tough. Because it's an even split backfield, which is really rough for fantasy. The floor is pretty low. Zach Charbonnet has been getting the goal line work, but Kenneth's been stealing a bunch of the receiving work. Kenneth is more explosive. I'd prefer to start Kenneth. I'd prefer to bench Zach Charbonnet. I think I saw Henderson, Trevion Henderson for Zach Charbonnet question. I think Henderson's got a higher ceiling. It's a tough call. It's a really tough call. Charbonnet is going to project better, though, than Henderson. So that one's tough. I think I'd probably lean Sharp over Trevion Henderson, but I don't feel great about it. I think Henderson has a better chance of a 20-plus point game. All right. On to the next game here. I'm going to talk through this Eagles game really quick since I missed it. Eagles playing the Broncos. This is the squeakiest of all wheels. Like one of the squeakiest wheels I feel like we've seen in the history of squeaky wheels here for the Eagles passing attack. Like I think there's literally a Rappaport tweet and report that the Eagles are going to get the ball more to A.J. Brown. They're not trading him. They know he's frustrated. But, I mean, it's rare to see receivers this publicly frustrated on a 4-0 team. The Eagles have not lost. They're winning all of these games. They have not needed to pass except for in one game this season. We have seen them pass in one game this season. Jalen Hurts was QB2 that week, 29 points. He threw the ball 32 times. He's been under 25 pass attempts every other game. The Eagles right now are right around their historically low pass volume from last season. Is that a fan in cash there already? He's got 3 for 10 and a touchdown. One more catch for Fannin. Love to see that. In the one game where they passed, A.J. Brown was a smash. He had 23 points, was wide receiver 4, 6 catches, 109 yards, and a touchdown. Every other game, he's been under 8 fantasy points. My God. It is rough out here with the Eagles players. I think I do kind of want to start A.J. Brown this week. Like I really do believe in the squeaky wheel here. They're playing the Broncos. Pat Surtain is typically not a guy you want your receivers playing against. But it's not like we haven't seen any performances versus the Broncos this season. We saw the Chargers do it. They did shut down the Bengals, but that was with Jake Browning. The Colts receivers, no one of them did well, but they did combine for almost 30 points. And then the Titans are, just terrible passing the ball this season. But he's not a must start. A.J. Brown's not a must start. He projects his wide receiver 28. I mean, we have Jacoby Myers easily projected ahead of A.J. Brown. It's kind of crazy stuff here for A.J. Brown. And Devontae Smith is even less startable. But at least one of these guys is probably going to get the squeaky wheel this week and get a lot more work. On the Broncos side of this game, definitely a decent amount of guys you can start. Dobbins projects pretty well. The Eagles, weirdly have not been great versus running backs this season. Dobbins' rushing prop is kind of interesting, this one. Let me pull up the running back ranks here on both live streams. Apologize if you can hear me sniffling, by the way. We are battling flu-like symptoms on the live stream today. Not to draw any comparisons. We are battling flu-like symptoms here on week 5 Sunday morning. Still the best day of the week. Still pumped, man. We got 3 straight, the only 3 good running backs to play the Eagles have gone over 19 points. Bucky Irvin went for 25. Kyron Williams went for 19. Javonte Williams went for 20. The Chiefs running backs, neither of them went over 5, but the Chiefs running backs have been awful this season. Dobbins has been really good. We haven't really seen a bad game from Dobbins. We haven't really seen J.K. Dobbins be bad at any moment where he was healthy in his career. He's always been really efficient. He's just not been healthy. Had his first 100-yard game last week, didn't score, so it was his worst fantasy game. Guys, he's 4th in rushing yards. He's 6th in rushing touchdowns. He's averaging over 80 rushing yards a game now. His prop line is in the 50s in this game. I do like that. That's my favorite prop in this game for sure. And Sutton is a start as well. RJ Harvey's an interesting sleeper. Him versus Michael Carter is a tough call, in my opinion. I honestly might go RJ Harvey over Michael Carter. RJ Harvey versus Steve Mercado, I'm going RJ Harvey very easily. RJ Harvey versus Trevion Henderson, I think it's pretty close. We did see RJ Harvey have a pretty good game and a great matchup, obviously, last week, but RJ Harvey's a rookie I'm in on. I still think he's really, really talented, has a high ceiling every single week. It's good to see him get more involved in the pass game too. Franklin is not a must start. He's startable in certain spots. All right, let's get to this next game here. We're almost through every single game. Let's get to this trade question here. Saying beautiful morning here on week 5. We are off to a fantastic start with the Browns props. Judkins over halfway there. Fannin 1 catch away. Fannin already scored 2 for everyone that started Fannin. Shout out to you. Should I trade Scatterbo and Pearsall for Keenan Allen and Chase Brown? Scatterbo and Pearsall for Keenan Allen and Chase Brown? No, absolutely not. Definitely not. I don't think Pearsall and Keenan are that far apart. I probably would prefer Keenan. But Scatterbo versus Chase Brown, it's Scatterbo easily, I think, rest of the season right now. So no, I would not do this. You say DeMarcado and Sutton for Brown. If that's AJ Brown, Austin, yes. If it's Chase Brown, absolutely not. Absolutely not. All right, let's get to the next game here. We're almost through every single game now. This is the survivor pick of the week here. The Lions at the Bengals. I'm going with the Lions as the survivor pick of the week, even in a world where the Bengals offense starts to click. And I think the thing I was really struggling with between the Lions and the Colts this week as the survivor pick is I am a little higher on the Bengals offense still, passing-wise, than most people. I do still think there's a ceiling here in the passing attack. We've seen Jake Browning have good games, like over a decent sample size in the past. I'm not willing to just throw all that out from 2 bad games from Browning in 2 tough matchups for Browning. Like I think that's one thing getting lost in all of these Bengals narratives. Like they played the Vikings and the Broncos in the 2 Jake Browning games. And we saw sample size even against the Jags. He did throw a few picks in this game versus the Jags, but he had 20 fantasy points. Then he plays the Vikings. They're number 3 against quarterbacks this season. Then they play the Broncos. They're number 1 versus quarterbacks this season. I feel like this is getting lost in the Bengals offensive narratives right now. And then look at the schedule the rest of the season. I mean, it's not like the Lions and Packers are easy here for the Bengals, but then after week 6, the Bengals have arguably the easiest schedule rest of season after week 6. I'm buying Jamar Chase in fantasy right now. Just because of this, only because of this. And I'm usually willing in cases like this too, to make bets on the obvious talent overcoming the rough situation. And that's exactly the situation for Jamar Chase right now. Definitely starting him this week. And I do think there's a really high ceiling. I actually have him in the Draftkings lineup. I'll share momentarily too. But yeah, so I have more faith in the Bengals offense, but even if the Bengals offense ends up making this close, really tough to see the Lions not winning this game. And there's obviously an outcome where the Lions just destroy the Bengals and the offensive struggles continue. It's not like the Lions defensive line is bad. So we're starting Jamar Chase. I don't know how you start Chase Brown. He had 40 rushing yards. He did have 3 catches. He does have 7 catches now over the 2 games with Jake Browning, so that's good news. That's about it, though. That's where the good news ends. That's kind of where the good news ends. The whole reason you were drafting Chase Brown was the touchdown potential in a Joe Burrow-led offense, and that's just obviously gone. Zapped. Completely gone. Like RJ Harvey versus Chase Brown, Travion Henderson versus Chase Brown, Michael Carter versus Chase Brown. These are close questions here in week 5. And some of those I honestly think I'd lean away from Chase Brown. I really don't want to start him right now. The receiving role does give him some hope, and it has him projecting okay, though. And Chase Brown's in a ton of the start sit questions, man. Ton. If you have Chase Brown out there, yeah, you got a tough start sit, send it in the chat now. Get to some of those. Scatterbo, Myers, Woody, Waddle, and Chase Brown. So like Waddle, Chase Brown, he is not a part of the start sit question. He's not even near the tiers of these other guys, like not even close. Chase Brown is closer to like being droppable than being in the tiers of these other guys this week for start sits. Oh, there's an insane catch there down the sideline. Yeah, I don't want to bench Waddle, but I think in this spot I would. I'd play Scatterbo, Myers, and Woody over Waddle. And I'm playing all these guys over Chase Brown like super easily. On the Lions side of this game, obviously you want to start every single Lions player this week. The Bengals have been one of the worst defenses in the NFL this year, last year as well. No different this year, really. They have one of the worst run defenses in the league, maybe the worst run defense in the NFL. And we got one of the best rushing attacks playing them this week. Looks like it was a flag on the Vikings there. Gibbs projects as running back 2. I think only behind Jonathan Taylor. Definitely a case for him to be running back 1 here. Amon-Ra projects as wide receiver 1. My only fear with this is if the pass volume is just not there. But again, I think the Bengals could keep this game close enough that they have to pass. That gives Goff an absolutely massive ceiling. He ranks as QB 7. Sam Laporta is a must start this week as well for really the first time all season. Sam Laporta definitely could have his biggest game of the season here. And then Jameson Williams may be set up for a huge boom game here. There's been a squeaky wheel with Jameson Williams as well. And a lot of the coach speak around Jameson Williams' role. 4 catches, 44 yards per game for Laporta. No touchdowns yet. For Sam Laporta, he's out there over 90% of the snaps last week. And yeah, he gets a great matchup here against the Bengals. He's in my Draftkings lineup this week as well. I feel pretty good about his ceiling. David Montgomery projects top 15. Tough to bench him in a spot like this. If you have David Montgomery, these are the games to start him in. The touchdown potential so high for Monty and Gibbs in this game. And then Jameson Williams, I'm willing to start him in a lot of situations this week here with buys in week 5, injuries in week 5. I want guys that have the chance to win me weeks. And Jameson Williams still has a chance to win you fantasy weeks. He has 2 catches in 3 straight games. Exactly 2 catches in 3 straight games. He's gotten over 40 yards in all 3 of those, though. And one of those, against the Bears, we saw him finish as a top 12 wide receiver. We talked about this in the offseason, but guys, what happens in the games where Jameson Williams has like a real role, like a 5, 6, 7, 8 catch game? He could be the wide receiver 1 on a week. That's the ceiling for JMO in scenarios where he has those games. And I think we will see those games this season. And it's very possible it's this week. He did have a 32% target share last week, 215 air yards. I think that led the NFL. 69, a nice 69% of the air yard share for Jameson Williams last week. And now he gets the Bengals. I think the boom game might be coming this week. Definitely worth considering a start. And I think T. Higgins, by the way, I mentioned the stuff about the Bengals pass attack. I do still think there's a ceiling still there for him, but he's not a must start. And my favorite prop in this game is Jahmyr Gibbs over 72.5 rushing yards. This feels about 20 yards too low. Like this is right near his floor. His floor is in the 60s in this game versus the Bengals. All right. We got 3 games left. We are almost at Pat's game, who I know our Patriots creator is patiently waiting for. We're almost at halftime of this Browns game too. All right. Commanders at Chargers. Jane Daniels is back. Terry McLaurin is still out. Still kind of an ominous Terry McLaurin situation where we haven't gotten like a ton of details about the Terry McLaurin injury. He's officially ruled out for week 5. He's spotted stretching on Thursday. I guess that's good news. Could need another week or 2. I think we're projecting him out next week also. Yeah. We have him back next week. We will see about that. That seems like an optimistic projection, though, at this point. Hopefully, he'll be able to come back for this Cowboys game. 2 good matchups coming up for the Commanders after this week. Zach Ertz projects as tight end 5. I don't know how we bench Zach Ertz right now. He's had a really consistent role. There's no Terry McLaurin, and now Jane Daniels is back. In the 2 games with Jane Daniels, he went for 11.6, 18.4. His snap percentage has been dwindling a little bit, like around the 60% range. But the targets have been pretty consistent. He's top 10 in tight end target share this season. Deebo Samuel's the must start, though, in this offense. Apparently, he's going to be a captain today, if you buy into that narrative. But even without that narrative, he's the best receiver for the Commanders today. And in the games with Jane Daniels, he went over 17 points in both games. He also had over 20 points last week. He's been really good after the catch. Over 30 yards after the catch per game. So far, that's top 10 in the league. Number 8 in the NFL right now, and after the catch. They're getting Deebo the ball in space really effectively on this offense right now. So I want to start Deebo for sure. Especially in this game versus the Chargers, it could end up being pretty high scoring. None of these running backs can be trusted. So I do want to start Jaden Daniels, though, in most spots. I think I said earlier in the live, there's really only 5 QBs I'd start over Jaden Daniels. Those 5 QBs are Josh Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, Herbert, and Fields. That's it. End of list. That's Jaden Daniels. I'm starting Daniels over Goff, over Stroud, over Kyler, over Baker, over Drake May, over Daniel Jones, over Jackson Dart, over Dak Prescott. I'd rather start Daniels. Every Chargers wide receiver is startable, guys. Every single one. We have them projected in order of how they've done this season, which is Quentin Johnson, Keenan Allen, and Ladd McConkey. We're a month in. You can't ignore what's happened so far this season. As much as I want to believe Ladd McConkey should be the wide receiver 1 on this team rest of the season, you can't ignore 4 straight games where Quentin Johnson leads this team in receiving. 4 straight games where Quentin Johnson is a smash fantasy play. He's the wide receiver 4 this season, guys. 19.9 points per game. Only Puka, Amon-Ra, and Adunze are ahead of him. And no, he's not going to finish this high. But, wild start for Quentin Johnson. You cannot ignore this. And it's not just been like 1 or 2 big plays. The role for Quentin Johnson has been really strong. They're getting him he's running a much different route tree than he ran last season. He's got a 26% target share in an offense that's near the top of the league in pass attempts. His air yards have been extremely strong, over 120 air yards per game. Only Godwin, who played 1 game, so tiny sample size, and Malik Neighbors have been in a better air yards role than Quentin Johnson. We can take Godwin out here, honestly. And the top 3 players, guys, this season in terms of air yards, which in my opinion are the number 1 volume metric for receivers, because it doesn't just, like, targets don't tell the whole story. Some targets are more valuable than others, right? A deep target down the field is more valuable than a Wan'Dale Robinson target at the line of scrimmage. And the top 3 volume players at the wide receiver position this season, it's Neighbors, then Quentin Johnston, and then Puka Nacua. Those are the top 3. So yeah, I'm starting Quentin Johnson over Keenan. I'm starting him over Ladd. I'm starting Quentin Johnson in every single league. You got to start him at this point. You have to. Can't ignore what's been going on. Keenan Allen projects a bit ahead of Ladd too. I think Ladd's ceiling is probably like a tiny bit higher than Keenan's, but the floor is higher for Keenan. But all 3 of these guys are startable. All 3 of them. Okay, and then Luke McCaffrey, just a note here. He's my favorite prop in this game. After doing some research on the props in this game, McCaffrey's role has been growing. This is the brother of Christian. He 37% snap percentage. That was the season high for him. He's had over a 12% target share in back-to-back games, 3 targets back-to-back games. With McLaurin out, McCaffrey's earned a role. He's played pretty well. Back-to-back games with a touchdown. So yeah, I like him over 1.5 catches in this spot. He's beating this line in back-to-back games. All right, on to the game I've been honestly most excited to talk about today. I'm a Patriots fan, a lifelong, diehard Patriots fan. And I know people, they don't like the Pats fans. I get it. I understand. But I truly believe this is the biggest Patriots game since January 4th of 2020. And maybe the most realistic Pats fans will know the game that happened on that day. I happened to be at that game on that day. This was the day the Patriots lost to the Tennessee Titans in the playoffs, in the wild card. And the last play of the game was Tom Brady's last pass attempt as a Patriot. I'm almost tearing up here on the live here talking through this. I knew at the time it was going to be his last game. Throws a pick 6 as his last pass as a Patriot, his last game as a Patriot. Actually, I don't know if it was his last pass. Definitely his last game. This was the biggest. This is the biggest game since then. The Patriots have not had a true reason for optimism since that game. Really, since that season. I won't go into depth on that season since that's a rabbit hole for me, and nobody really cares at this point. But the Patriots have had no true hope at being like a legit playoff team, a legit contender in the AFC East, basically since that game, January 4th, 2020. And tonight they have like a real chance to change the trajectory of the whole franchise of what it's been really since then. It's the first time there could be like big reason for optimism if they won this game. They have basically nothing to lose in this spot as well, the Pats. They're 8.5-point underdogs in Buffalo. The Bills are I think I saw minus 3,000, like something ridiculous to win the AFC East right now. You have to bet like $3,000 to win 100 on the Bills to win the AFC East right now. Obviously, that could change if this game goes in a surprising way. I think this is the most hope the Patriots have ever had since over 5 years ago to actually contend in the AFC East. And it starts with the game tonight. On the fantasy side of things, TreVeyon Henderson, he's borderline unstartable. Like, it is a really, really difficult time to be starting TreVeyon Henderson. Because not only is Ramondre Stevenson clearly the preferred running back for the Pats, despite fumbling twice, we didn't see his role really get reduced here in week 4. Even in a blowout, Henderson led the team, led the backfield in snaps. He led the backfield in route participation. He saw 9 carries and a target. And I don't think he did see two rush attempts in the red zone as well. But he started the game and has been the most efficient running back for the Patriots outside of the fumbles. But then Antonio Gibson, he's also playing and he's getting some goal line work too. Antonio Gibson really makes this a really rough spot for fantasy. He had a rushing touchdown last week. He only played 9 snaps, but he saw 6 carries. That was 20% of the carries to Antonio Gibson. He had 2 goal line carries, and both those carries came obviously in the red zone. So he's getting red zone and goal line work, Antonio Gibson. We know he's a capable receiving back. He was a receiver in college. He didn't have any targets last week, I don't think. Yeah, he only ran 1 route, no targets. But yeah, so Henderson's running back 2 or 3, like in the pecking order right here. I think Gibson might have been on the field before him last week again. Henderson ended up playing more snaps, scoring more fantasy points than Gibson. He did score his first touchdown last week. We haven't seen the ceiling for Henderson yet, but we're not going to see the ceiling for Henderson unless the role grows. The whole narrative, and guys, I was really in on Trevion Henderson. If you've been watching these lives, you know that. The whole narrative for me was I thought he was going to be in the James White role that we've seen with Josh McDaniels in the past. The James White role from the last time Josh McDaniels was the offensive coordinator for the Pats would rank top 3 this season in target share for running backs. That's why I was drafting Henderson. I thought he could get there. And he has been at 11% target share this season because James White was at like a 23% target share in the Pats offense with Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady. We really haven't seen anywhere near that type of usage or role for Henderson. And he has not looked like the best running back on this team. I still think the ceiling is there. But man, I don't know how we can really confidently start him right now. And I would start Henderson over him. Sorry, I would start Ramondre over him. Drake May, I feel like we are ranking a little too low this week in the Walter Picks app. He's been the QB4 this season. Only 3 QBs have more points per game than Drake May. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes. And this is the reason. This is the biggest Patriots game since January 4th, 2020. It is all because of Drake May. He's the sole reason for optimism, finally, for the Patriots. His floor was week 1, 16.8. He's been over 20 points every other game. He leads the NFL in completion percentage at 74%. He's completing almost 75% of his passes. He's 6th in yards per attempt at 8 yards per attempt. And obviously he's able to run the ball too. Let's go to his efficiency rushing. Not quite as high as it was last year on a smaller sample size, but he does have 2 rushing touchdowns this season. He's definitely up there in terms of the rushing touchdown potential here in week 5. I do like the Drake May over 4.5 rushing attempts. I do like the Drake May over 30 rushing yards line. I think that might actually be at 27.5. He didn't run last week, so I think it's skewing his numbers a little bit, and they're setting this line a little bit off. But last week was not close. He only had 3 rushing attempts last week. Didn't really need to run. Only had 11 rushing yards. But in a game like this, where he gets pushed, similar to these Dolphins and Steelers games, where he got pushed to really try to come back and match the opposing team, I think we see Drake May go over 30 rushing yards in this game, have a pretty good chance of rushing touchdown. With how he's been passing, he's definitely a decent start here in fantasy. And then Steph Diggs, the revenge game for Steph Diggs, it's so tough to ignore. He's coming off his best game as a Patriot by far. His usage is increasing. It's hard to picture his usage not taking another leap. There's still so much room for his usage to go up. He only played 63% of snaps last week. He was up to almost 75% of the route participation. But man, this spot versus the Bills, the biggest Pats game since 2020, you got to think they get him over 75% of the routes, especially in this revenge game. He had 41% target share last week, had 7 targets. He caught 6 of those for 101 yards, no touchdowns. But yeah, I want to start Diggs this week for sure. Hunter Henry is definitely startable here as well. And then for the Bills, probably the best offense in the NFL, especially with the Lamar injury. And still there's only 2 guys you can really confidently start on the team. It's Josh Allen, James Cook, end of list. Dalton Kincaid is rough to start. He's barely even playing. He's been good for fantasy. Tight end 9 on the season. But guys, the role for Kincaid's awful. Borderline droppable role. If you ignore the production, which you don't want to completely ignore, obviously, his snap percentage is under 50%. He ran 14 routes last week. His targets are outside the top 20 per game. The air yards haven't been terrible. When he is getting targets, they're typically valuable. He has scored 3 times. His touchdown rate is 21.4%. Doubt that's going to be sustainable. Not a must start. He's got a ceiling because of the efficiency, but he's definitely not a must start. All right, that's the Pats and Bills game. I really do think the Pats could surprise people in this game and keep this game close. I would take the Pats with the spread here. With how the Patriots offense has played, how Drake May has played, definitely feels possible we could see a little bit of a shakeup or at least a close game in the AFC East tonight. All right, the Chiefs and the Jaguars. This is the Monday night game this week. Pat Mahomes, he's in a two-man race for MVP right now. It is really rare this early in the season that there's only really 2 guys racing for MVP. And obviously this stuff can change, but we're in a really weird situation where there's enough quarterback injuries to the elite QBs. This is a QB award, by the way, almost always, that it's really just Mahomes versus Josh Allen right now. And the Chiefs are going to have to win enough games for Mahomes to really be in consideration. But I also, we know there's so much voter fatigue with MVP. That's why Lamar didn't win it last year and Josh Allen won it. Well, Josh Allen won last year. So there's going to be voter fatigue Josh Allen has to overcome. And Mahomes, quietly is just having one of his best seasons he's had in multiple years. He is at 32.5 rushing yards per game. He scored twice rushing. He's the third in QB fantasy points per game. Only Lamar and Allen are ahead of him. Obviously, Lamar had the injury. And then we got Rashee Rice coming back soon, too. I think Mahomes has a shot, at least, with how bad the running game has been as well. But yeah, it's probably going to be Josh Allen. Josh Allen's like the big favorite right now. Xavier Worthy, I told a lot of people to bench last week. Definitely an L for me. I wanted one of those situations where I play it safe. Typically, guys coming off these uncertain injuries. There's reports saying Worthy was going to be playing with a sling, and they were going to try to get him, touches where he was running out of bounds. Like there was reports like that had me pretty spooked. That was a mistake. 17.1 points, 5 catches, 83 yards. Played 60% of the snaps, 23% target share. Had a ton of air yards as well. Definitely startable. They got him some carries too. The fact that he was getting carries, he had 2 carries. Yeah, 2 carries last week also gives me a lot of confidence that he's close to full health. So he projects really well this week versus the Jags. Wide receiver 8, definitely a must start. Travis Kelce's also a must start here in week 5 with all the tight end issues for fantasy. No one else is startable. Brashard Smith might be the best running back in fantasy for this team. Brashard Smith should be rostered in every single fantasy league. Definitely the most explosive running back they have. Hunt and Pacheco are completely unstartable. Completely unstartable. That's every game. That is my favorite prop in every game. Kelce over 4.5 at plus odds is my favorite prop in that game. Let's pull up the DraftKings lineup. I mentioned my official favorite prop this week is Rachaad White over 3.5 receptions. I also do like those Drake May rushing lines a lot. But the official play of the day is Rachaad White. All right, let's get to the DraftKings lineup. I'll talk through that. And then we will get to the rapid fire comment section of the live stream, man. Pumped to get to it. But first, let's talk about this DK game. His DK lineup. I'm going with the Dak Prescott, George Pickens stack here and bringing it back with Breece Hall. The Cowboys have set up so perfectly for fantasy football this season. They have the worst defense in the league, and their offense has been really, really successful as well. We saw this obviously last week on prime time against the Packers, one of the best defenses in the league. That game ended 40-40 in a tie. We've seen 3 straight games where Dak's throwing the ball over 40 times. And last week, with CeeDee Lamb out, the offense was built around George Pickens. I mean, they designed the offense around George Pickens, who projects as a top 10 receiver this week. So yeah, a lot of reason, I think, to like this Dak Prescott, George Pickens stack. The Jets matchup here, not a scary matchup for the Cowboys offense. The Cowboys are underdogs or like barely favored in this game. They're 1.5 point favorites. Yeah, the Cowboys are 1.5 point favorites in New York. This game has one of the highest over-unders of the week. So yeah, I really like Breece Hall without Braylon Allen as well. I think really good touchdown potential. There's no game script that he's out of because of the receiving role as well for Breece. So I'm going with the Dak, Pickens, Breece stack. I'm going with Woody Marks. He's priced way too low for how he projects against the Ravens. I'm going with Jamar Chase and Sam Laporta, a mini stack there, that Bengals-Lions game. I don't think many people are going to play Jamar this week. He's the highest priced receiver on the slate. Obviously, a lot of negativity around Jamar with Jake Browning. But guys, Jamar Chase could easily still be the wide receiver 1 any given week. That's the talent profile of Jamar Chase. This game where he had 36.5 points in week 2 was mostly Jake Browning. He had 14 catches, 165, and a touchdown. And I just feel like is being lost in the Bengals' offensive concerns and all the narrative around them is they play 2 arguably top 5 defenses the last 2 weeks. The Vikings defense ranks number 1 versus receivers this season. They rank they rank top 5 versus quarterbacks as well. The Broncos defense ranks number 6 versus receivers this season. They rank number 1, the Broncos versus quarterbacks. Like no one's mentioning that. And the game we saw Jake Browning play against the Jags, or half the game, he did throw a few picks, but he put some real numbers up at least, and so does Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase is a very interesting DraftKings tournament play this week, even at the price point. Because there's such value to be had on DraftKings this week that you can fit Jamar Chase in pretty easily. I mean, Jacoby Myers is priced way too low. He's a top 5 receiver with Brock Bowers out. I talked about why I like Deebo Samuel this week as well. And then the Texans defense versus the Ravens, stacking the Texans with Woody Marks, going up against Cooper Rush. The Ravens also without one of their starting offensive linemen. The Texans defense has not been bad either this season. Like definitely underrated defense in the NFL. They project his defense 7 this week. They had 14 points last week versus the Titans, allowed 0 points to the Titans. We've had at least 5 points from them every game. They're top 10 in points per game of defense. Seahawks up there at number 1. All right, that's the DK lineup this week. Feel pretty good about the potential here in this one. Last time we went with a Dak stack, I did a double stack with Lamb and Pickens, and Lamb got hurt in that game. So hopefully we don't jinx Dak here again in the Cowboys. All right, we're going to get to the comment section. I'm going to restart the TikTok live quick, see if I can get the comments on for the non-subscribers. And then we'll get to tons of comments here. Looks like I got it fixed. All right. We are on to the rapid fire section of the live stream. We're almost at halftime of the game as well, so good timing. Tons of comments to get to. Jordan Mason started the game well, but he's at 16 total rushing yards now. He's 17 total yards and a fumble. So that bench looks pretty good. Cam Akers threw a touchdown to Josh. Cam Akers threw that touchdown to Josh Alford. Did not notice that. Harold Fannin did cash already. He's at 4 catches. Judkins at 51 yards. Not bad here. Only on 8 carries, too. This game stays this close. Judkins definitely has a good shot. Assuming he's healthy, which TikTok went down. Yeah, TikTok should be back up. Got the comments going on TikTok. Sorry about that TikTok from earlier. All right, let's get to – oh, sorry. I had a comment up there. Let me make sure I get to that one. Battling flu-like symptoms here today on a Sunday morning live, and we're off to a good start with this London time game. Drake May or Kyler Murray? Yeah, I'd go Drake May. Juwan Johnson, Ertz, or Waller. So we can't – let me just talk through the must benches quick this week. The QBs are not so notable. I don't want to start Tony Pollard with Tajay Spears back. I don't want to start Michael Carter or DeMarcado. I think they're both traps. I don't want to start Pacheco or Hunt. At tight end, I do not want to start Juwan Johnson. He might not play. He's questionable and might not play. I haven't seen if there's been an updated report on that since the live started. I can check quick. Carson Wentz was questionable to return. People saying Cam Akers is going to play. Yeah, I've seen no update on Juwan Johnson. So, yeah, we can't start Juwan Johnson. Taysom Hill and the main reason is Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau are both back. They've been out all season, both those guys. They're both back in the same game. So it's uncertain if Juwan Johnson is going to have this really, really great role that he's always had. And it's still even uncertain he's going to play. All right, let's go to QB ranks here. See someone asking for that. We're in the rapid fire section of this live stream, guys. So fire in the start sit comments. I'm going to get to as many as I can. Let's actually start with the QBs. We got QB questions. Fire them in the chat. White or Marks? Yeah, I think I lean towards Marks over White, but they're both really good options. I like both of them a lot this week. Mayfield or Bo Nix? Yeah, I think I saw another Mayfield question earlier too. He projects a little higher than I expected, honestly. This week, like him versus Drake May, I personally think I would go Drake May. Him versus Daniel Jones, I think I would go Daniel Jones. I honestly might play Jackson Dart over him also, but he does project the best. It's really close projections here. But yeah, I think I probably would play him over Bo Nix against the Eagles. I think I agree with that one. I do think without Bucky Irving, like we could see really, really big pass volume for the Bucs in this game. Okay. Any other QB start sits in the chat? Going to prioritize the QB start sits. Daniels or Fields? Yeah, it's got to be Fields. You can't bench the QB playing the Cowboys. We were just looking at it when we talked about this game. If you just played the QB playing the Cowboys every single week, you'd have the QB1. this season, better than Josh Allen. 27.7 points per game against the Cowboys this season. So yeah, we're starting Justin Fields. He was a top 5 QB last week. He's got the best matchup you could possibly have this week. Happy NFL Sunday to you as well. Kyler Murray or Daniel Jones. Damir, happy Sunday to you, man. Best day of the week. We're already off to a great start in the London time game. We were on the Browns money line, on the Browns spread, on Judkins rushing, and Fannon's receptions line. Not all those have obviously cashed yet, but some of them have. And Judkins obviously well on his way there, and the Browns too. All right, Murray or Jones? Let's go with Murray versus Jones. Yeah, this one's really, really close to Ertz or Strange. Yeah, I think I would probably go Ertz for Strange. We'll get to the tight ends here in a second. I think it's probably Strange over Ertz for me. But Murray or Jones? I think it's Daniel Jones. I think I'd go Daniel Jones over Kyler Murray. We got the higher boom potential here for Daniel Jones. I think it's a better matchup. Yeah, it's a better matchup for Daniel Jones. Kyler projects 1 point better. But yeah, I like the ceiling for Daniel Jones more. I would honestly argue the floor for Daniel Jones might be a little higher too. I think we're baking in a tiny bit more rushing for Kyler this week, but yeah, I prefer Daniel Jones over Kyler personally. Fields or Daniels? Yeah, I think I already answered that one. Sharp or Franklin? I think I'd probably go Sharp. I'd probably play the Seahawks over the Eagles defense too. Drake May or Kyler Murray, brother? Luke, how we doing, man? Good to see you back in the live. I think I would probably go with May over Kyler Murray as well. Let's get to Matty Crypto in the Discord. He was asking about Diggs, Sharp, Imanor, and Hendo. Let me pull this up on the TikTok live actually really quick. I wanted to get to this. If you guys are subscribers to the Walter Picks app, then you get premium access to chat with me and the entire team at Walter Picks directly all week. And so this came from our Discord. Let me pull up this starts it on the YouTube live too here. We got, this is definitely not an easy one. And I've seen a lot of starts like this. We got Sharp versus Imanor. Matt said too, he's 0-4. And he went back against Kyron Williams on Thursday night. So he's down bad. And he needs a ceiling game. And that context is useful in this spot too. Guys, if you're 0-4, like you got to start stringing together wins. All that matters is making the playoffs. You got to sell out to make the playoffs. And if you're 4-0, you should probably already be thinking about the playoffs. Much different strategies depending on the spot you're in. Yeah, I thought about this one a lot. And I do think Sharp is probably the play, the right floor ceiling combo play. I think you could definitely talk yourself into Henderson here. And Stephon Diggs, by the way, was actually a part of this question. There's a start 2 question. Stephon Diggs was in this too. But I'm definitely starting Diggs over all of these guys, especially in the revenge game spot. Diggs got to be started. And then to maximize ceiling, I don't think starting Henderson alongside Diggs makes sense. I think you go Sharp and Diggs. And if you guys are watching live on TikTok, guys, the app you're seeing on screen right now, this is the Walter Picks app. Spent the last 5 years of my life helping build this app. It's free. And there's premium features in the app. They come with a free 7-day trial as well. Definitely recommend checking out the app if you want to dominate fantasy and props. All right, let's get to any more of the QB start sits we have here in the live. Yeah, I would go May over Kyler personally. Darnold, Smith, or Tua. Yes, I have both Tua. I have Tua in my must bench list this week, just because we saw last week you might not need to throw against the Panthers. I'm still kind of surprised that the Dolphins are only favored by 1.5 here versus the Carolina Panthers with how bad they looked last week. I know it's a week-to-week league. We saw that with the Falcons after they lost to the Panthers. We got Geno here, who I also have on my must-bench list, and then Darnold. So I didn't add Tua here. And Geno, I think, projects the best. I'm nervous for Geno without Brock Bowers in the lineup. But yeah, I think it is Geno. It's Geno or Darnold. I think I'd play them both over Tua. I think you'd go Geno. He's got the best projection, the best floor ceiling combo. Taysom over Juwan then? No, I don't think we need to start Taysom. Let me go to the tight end tiers here. I don't think I even have Taysom in the tight end tiers. Let's jump to the tight end start sits. There's a ton of tight end start sit questions this week. I know there's the Brock Bowers injury. Let me just talk through the tight end tiers quick, because I know I can answer a lot of start sit questions at once if I just talk through the tiers first. I can also answer more start sits when I just focus on one position. So chat, if you have a tight end start sit question, fire it in the chat. We're at halftime of the London time game. We got a great start to week 5 here. We got to help some people out with some tough tight end start sits. And I think Juwan Johnson, he's not even, I think, we have him ranked tight end 23. He might not play. You got to make other options if you have Juwan Johnson, in my opinion, this week. The role's been great for Juwan, but Foster Moreau is back this week. Taysom Hill is back this week. Who knows what those roles are going to look like? We've never seen this coaching staff for the Saints have Taysom Hill or Foster Moreau, both of who had pretty sizable roles at times last season. So I think for all those reasons, you bench Juwan Johnson this week. He might not even play. That doesn't mean I feel comfortable starting Taysom Hill, though. I do think Taysom should be rostered. In most 12-team plus leagues, he should be rostered. Okay, but the tiers here, McBride's in a tier of his own. He really hasn't fully separated from the other tight ends this season, which is a little disappointing because Kittle's been hurt, Bowers has been battling an injury, and McBride still hasn't really given us that positional advantage we need. But the floor's been there. He hasn't had a game under 12 points. Doesn't have a game with less than 5 catches. He's clearly in a tier of his own, especially if he can get in the end zone. Tyler Warren and Jake Ferguson, they're in their own tier 2. And then basically everyone else is at a real risk to go under 10 points. The only other tight ends projected over 10 points this week are Kelsey and Ertz, who I have a part of a larger tier 3 with Brenton Strange, Laporta, Hunter Henry. And then I think Andrew starts tier 4 here. So I feel okay with Ertz and Strange. I think there was a question in the TikTok live about Zach Ertz or Brenton Strange. McBride or Taysom? We're going McBride. We're not all aboard the Taysom bandwagon yet, guys. We want him on our teams, on our benches, in case we end up getting the QB1 for the Saints in our tight end slot. That's the upside for Taysom. It's just tough to find in fantasy. But yeah, Strange versus Ertz is close for me. I think we compare their receiving stats here on the YouTube live. If you guys are watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. Better viewing experience. If you're watching live on YouTube, guys, smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button. We're 2.5 hours in. We are still just getting started here because we started early on London time this morning. So yeah, I'd go Waller over Juwan Johnson. Tommy Tremble, by the way, is the sleeper of the week. Like, talk about a sleeper. This guy's rostered in less than 1% of leagues. And he projects his tight end 15. He projects ahead of definitely some guys that will be started at tight end this week. Tommy Tremble had 15 points last week. He was tight end 6. 5 catches, 42 yards. He did score a touchdown. He played 75% of snaps. Jatavian Sanders is still out. He had a 25% target share, 8 targets. Definition of a sleeper here in Tommy Tremble. Jimmy Horn, by the way, didn't mention him earlier in the live talking about the Panthers, but he's a rookie. He probably get his first run for the Panthers today. Excited about that. How do you feel about Taysom Hill? I am excited to have him on my team. Not excited to start him this week. Let's get to some more of the tight end starts and sits. QB rankings. Yeah, I can pull them up. Kamara, Dowdle, yikes. Sharp or Tucker at flexible PPR. I know you said don't start DeMarcado. Yeah. Trey Tucker over Sharp. I think I'd probably go Trey Tucker over Sharp. Sharp probably projects a little bit better, I would imagine, but I think Tucker's got the higher ceiling. Strange, Ertz, or Andrews? Yeah, Strange versus Ertz is really, really close. We were just talking about that one. I would play both these guys over Andrews. With the quarterback situation for the Ravens today, no Lamar Jackson. We got Cooper Rush in there. Don't have any confidence in him. Likely had 0 points in his first game. I doubt we see that continue, too. Likely is back, and it didn't really end up hitting Andrews last week. I still think it could end up hitting him, though, this week. He had 7 catches last week, a season-high catches in Likely's first game. Really surprising. Yeah, if we look at the receiving stats here, Zach Ertz, slightly higher target share, but Strange actually has the most targets per game, the most receptions per game. The best yards per out run per game. What's his receiving yards? Might have that up here. Total yards per game is the highest too. It's close, man. The Jags are 3.5-point underdogs, I think, against the Chiefs. But yeah, with no Terry McLaurin, Ertz is safest. I think Strange has the highest ceiling, and I'd bench Andrews here. I do think I lean towards Ertz over Strange, though. Andrews or Waller? Oh, man, yeah, it's a close one. They're back-to-back in the ranks here. I know some people will be interested in Waller. I honestly think I probably would go Waller over Andrews. I'd probably go Waller over Schultz, too. Definitely a good matchup for Waller. I think the role is only going to grow for Waller. And yeah, I really don't want anything to do with Andrews here in week 5. Mayfield or Jones? I think it's Daniel Jones. Kincaid, Waller, or Laporta? It's Laporta. Start Laporta in a spot like this. Laporta's in tier 3 for me among the tight ends. Tier 1's McBride. Tier 2's Tyler Warren and Jake Ferguson. And then he's in tier 3 with a bunch of compelling options. I got Laporta in the DK lineup, my Draftkings lineup this week. Feel pretty good about him. If you guys are just hopping in the YouTube live, guys, smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button. We're battling flu-like symptoms on the YouTube live today on London time, nonetheless. Shout out to everyone in this live. Seriously, appreciate you all. And we are in the rapid fire section of the live too. So you're joining at a very good time if you're just hopping in. Appreciate you guys a ton. It takes 2 seconds to hit the like button. Seriously helps a lot. We're starting Rachaad White and we are benching Michael Carter this week. Let's hop over to the flex start sits now. We'll open it up to all the start sits now. Go to the running back ranks here quick. I'll pull up the running back ranks here on the YouTube live as well. If you guys are just tuning in, by the way, we're live every single Sunday morning. I've already talked through every single game, basically every single player. And Rachaad White's an absolute smash start today. There's already been a report saying he's going to get the bulk of the work. He ranks as running back 10 for us on the week. I think him versus Woody Marks is honestly really close. I want to start Marks really badly. Marks has the better matchup too. I don't think I would go Marks over Rachaad White personally, but it's close, man. It's close. But yeah, Michael Carter, he's the trap. He's the trap of the week. Michael Carter and DeMarcado are the traps of the week. The matchup's good. The role we can tell ourselves is good, but is the role really good? In a 3-way backfield where they're going to give Bam Knight a chance to be the hot hand? If Bam Knight is in a 3-way rotation with you and has a chance to be the hot hand, that's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. Michael Carter's floor is near 0 points. And what his ceiling isn't terrible. Like there's some spots you could start him, but definitely not like in a spot like this. I'm definitely starting Michael Carter. Benching Michael Carter for Rachaad White. Michael Carter versus Jalen Tolbert. Now, this is a good question, man. This is a good one. I think it's Tolbert. Tolbert sneakily, his role is like not bad right now. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb's out. Yeah, it's Tolbert. It's Tolbert over Michael Carter pretty easily. The ceiling, I honestly think, is higher for Tolbert maybe than Michael Carter too. He's at back-to-back games over 7 points. Last week, the first full game without CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Tolbert goes for 4 catches, 61 yards, over 10 points. Plays over 80% of the snaps. Sees a 15% target share, over 100 air yards for Jalen Tolbert. So yeah, I'm starting that profile over a guy whose floor is close to 0 points in Michael Carter. Marv or Jacoby. Another guy we are absolutely not benching this week is Jacoby Myers. Let me talk through the must starts of the week because I'm seeing way too many starts and questions with the must starts in them. Jacoby Myers is on that list. He projects his wide receiver 5 this week. There's no Brock Bowers. So he projects his wide receiver 5. So we're starting Jacoby Myers. We're starting Xavier Worthy, Tet McMillan, Deebo Samuel, Jalen Waddle, and Chris Godwin. All these guys are good starts this week. Judkins obviously already started playing. Woody Marks, Cam Scatterbo, David Montgomery needs to be started this week for sure. If I go to the running backs, Dowdle is definitely startable as well, though I think he has some trap potential also. But he's not a must bench. Kelsey, Zach Ertz, Strange, Laporta, Hunter Henry. These are all good tight end starts this week. And I'm benching Michael Carter. I'm benching DeMarcado. So yeah, I don't hate Marv, but I'm definitely starting Jacoby over him. Kamara, Monty, I'm going Monty. I'm going Monty for sure. Kendrick Miller might straight up be better than Kamara, guys. He's been more efficient than him in multiple weeks now. David Montgomery gets a matchup against the Bengals. This is the whole reason you have David Montgomery on your team, because he has huge touchdown potential. So yeah, we're definitely going Monty here. Definitely going Monty. Worthy or Keenan? Oh, God, this is a close one. I think it's Worthy. I was really surprised how big the role was for Worthy in his first game back. Definitely a guy I want to be starting. Xavier Worthy. Diggs, Marv, or Brian Thomas Jr. This is a good one here from the TikTok live. Shout out to everyone in both live stream, by the way. We're live on TikTok and YouTube. If you're watching live on YouTube, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. We got daily content posted on the YouTube live, on the YouTube channel this season. We got a weekly start sit video, weekly waiver and trade advice. We got 3 live streams every week on the YouTube. And we're live on TikTok as well. Hit the follow button if you're watching live on TikTok. All right, that was a good one that I saw on the TikTok live, and then I went on a different rant and missed the comment. So we'll move on. I do apologize to the TikTok comment. That was a good one too. Let's see if I can find it really quickly. Had Steph Diggs in it. Thoughts on McBride at tight end and Warren at flex? I think it's reasonable, but I usually don't want to start 2 tight ends. I think it was, let's go to the receivers here. Let's just talk through some of these receiver tiers. Pull up the wide receiver ranks here on the live. That'll help people out. I do really want to start Diggs. Diggs is in a revenge game tonight against the Bills, a game that the Patriots are 8.5-point underdogs. Diggs coming up by far his best game of the season. Let's see if there's any Steph Diggs questions here in the YouTube live. I'm going Chase Brown over Michael Carter. It's a gross one. I will pull up QB ranks here in a second. Why is Kyler a must start? I think I don't know if I'd classify him as a must start. I might have him in that category on the YouTube live. He ranks pretty high. The matchup's obviously not bad, but there's a decent amount of QBs I would start over him. So depending on your situation, I don't know if he actually is a must start. Not a ton of Steph Diggs questions here. There was one in the TikTok live though. Yeah, I do want to start Steph Diggs. Bobby Bottles, how we doing, man? Jacoby Myers and Michael Pittman. Yeah, we're not benching Jacoby Myers. We're absolutely not benching Jacoby. Projects as wide receiver 5. Jacoby Myers is definitely one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL right now. Like I don't think many people realize the role that he's had. He's at the 15th highest target share among all receivers in the NFL. He's above guys like Devontae Adams and Quentin Johnson and Ted McMillan and Michael Pittman, who's a part of this question, Keenan Allen and Emeka Egbuka. Jacoby Myers has a higher target share than all of these guys, and Brock Bowers is out today. And the backup tight end's also out, Michael Mayer. So yeah, Jacoby's he's locked in. Like, I think we're projecting him for a 30% target share. That's his median projection. Yeah, we're at 33% target share on Myers today. That's his median projection. He had a 35% target share last week. And they're underdogs. They're big underdogs in this game, 7-point underdogs, 6-point underdogs. So yeah, I don't know how we bench Jacoby. With all that being said, I don't know how we bench Jacoby Myers. Troy Franklin or Jalen Tolbert? Yeah, Rob, when I wake up on Sunday mornings, man, these are the questions that get me out of bed. They really are. We're here in week 5. There's injuries, there's buys, and we're sweating Troy Franklin versus Jalen Tolbert, man. It does not get better than this. This is the peak. This is the peak of life right here. We got Tolbert versus Franklin, and it is Tolbert that projects better. Franklin's definitely a bit sketchy right now because his snap percentage went down last week, and he hasn't really been producing with the volume he's been getting. The volume has been kind of consistent though. He's had at least a 15% target share now in every single game. He had a season high air yards last week too. But the snap percentage went down. Marvin Mims exploded last week. The floor feels a bit sketchy for him. I think the ceiling is arguably higher for Tolbert too. So yeah, I think I would go Tolbert over Franklin. Definitely a close one though. We got some gross start sits here. Brian Thomas Jr. or Michael Thomas. Guys, this encapsulates the panic of the fantasy community so well this season. There's so much panic out there. Some of it's warranted. Some of it's unwarranted. The Brian Thomas Jr. panic, I'm really not in on this panic with him. He's been under 11 points every single game. His first game last week with 5 catches. The targets have been somewhat consistent. Parker Washington had a better game than him last week. But guys, are we really starting Michael Carter, the 3rd string running back or 4th string running back? He was on the practice squad 2 weeks ago. Michael Carter was on the practice squad. He's going to be the starter for the Cardinals today, but he's in a 3-way rotation. And the guy who's number 2 in that rotation, Amari DiMercado, is going to play all the passing downs, the clear passing downs. The floor for Michael Carter is so low. You got to go with Brian Thomas Jr. with the ceiling that he still has. I'm not saying Brian Thomas Jr. is like a must start in all spots. Trevion Henderson, Justice Hill, or Kendre Miller? Seeing this one in the TikTok live, that's a good question for sure. We're back on London time, by the way. That game's kicking off. Shout out to everybody in this live stream, by the way, at halftime, or going with a dual screen approach to the London time game and tuning into the live and the game. Seriously appreciate you guys so much. Look forward to these lives all week. Even battling flu-like symptoms, man, I'm having a blast. We got Henderson, Justice Hill, or Kendre Miller. Man, every week, the Trevion Henderson questions, we see more and more every single week. I feel like we're seeing more and more Henderson questions every single week. And these have been the toughest questions for me because I have Henderson in so many leagues, and I was so high on him. And he's so difficult to trust. I would definitely start him over Justice Hill, but honestly, I think I'd go Kendre Miller personally over Trevion Henderson. I think I'm a decent bit higher than on Kendre than our rankings have right now. Let me go to the running back ranks on both lives. We got Kendre Miller. Yeah, we got Kendre Miller in tier 8 of the rankings right now. I'd start Kendre Miller over Kareem Hunt, over Tajay Spears, over Justice Hill, over Sean Tucker, over Amari DiMercado. And then, yeah, I think Kendre belongs in that like RJ Harvey, Trevion Henderson tier. It's close, though. It's definitely really, really close. Kendre Miller has straight up been better than Alvin Kamara the last 2 weeks. There was a pretty pretty telling report this week that the Saints are shopping their veteran players. After this week, they're going to be considering trade offers for their veteran players. There's one veteran player there's only one veteran player that people are trading for, unless I'm unaware of a defensive player or an offensive line player, which is very possible for the Saints. I mean, there's one offensive skill position player that's a veteran that anyone would trade for. No one's trading for Brandon Cooks. They're trading for Alvin Kamara. And why would the Saints not do that? They're clearly not contending this season. They haven't won a single game. They're one of 3 teams without a win. And Kendra Miller's outplaying Kamara. And he's a good matchup this week. Yeah, so I'm definitely starting over Sean Tucker. I'm not sure if this is updated too for the report, but yeah, I'm definitely going Kendra Miller over Sean Tucker. Sam, how are we doing on this wonderful Sunday? Yosh, we're doing great, man. We're battling flu-like symptoms this morning. So if you can hear the sniffles, I apologize. But we're doing fantastic still, man. It's still Sunday. It's still the best day of the week. Woody Marks or Chris Godwin? Yeah, this is a good one, Yarch. But I like both these guys this week. Sorry, I think I did say Kendra Miller over Trevion Henderson. Henderson over Justice Hill. That's how I would have it. If you really need a ceiling, maybe Henderson has a higher ceiling, but it's tough to talk myself into Trevion Henderson right now. I refuse to bench Woody Marks. I'm curious how this projection looks, but to me, it's like Woody Marks pretty easily before looking at the projection. Guys, I don't know how we're benching Woody Marks. He's in tier 3, just behind Breece Hall at the end of tier 2. And I will not be surprised if he's a top 5 play again this week. He was top 6 last week, number 6. He had 28 points. He had by far his largest workload of his young career. 17 carries, didn't have more than 6 in a game previously. He had 4.1 yards per carry on those carries behind a pretty bad offensive line. He also had 5 targets, and he caught 4 of those for 50 yards and a touchdown. He scored twice. Now he gets the Ravens, who have been the best matchup for running backs. No better matchup for running backs than the Ravens. They're allowing over 34 points per game to running backs. Part of that is they played Lions, and Gibbs and Montgomery combined for almost 60 points. But even some of these other running backs, the Browns combined for over 30 points against them. The Bills, James Cook went for over 20 points. Last week, even Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, and Rashard Smith combined for over 25 points. And now Woody Marks, who had 90th percentile college receiving production, he's in a growing role against a Ravens defense with half their defense sidelined. So yeah, we're riding Woody Marks. He's in the Draftkings lineup for me this week. He's an absolute must start this week. Like, there's very, very little scenarios where I would bench Woody Marks. Interesting one here of Dowdle versus Olave, seeing that one on the TikTok live. Shout out to everyone sending comments in both live streams. I'm going to get to as many comments as I possibly can here on the live today, like I do every single Sunday. Shout out to all of you. If I don't get to your start sit, I'm not going to be able to get to all of them. It's not realistic. I'm going to get to hundreds. I won't get to thousands. I helped build the Walter Picks app over the last 5 years for this exact reason. The app will help you with your start sit comparisons and your trade questions and your waiver ads and your player prop analysis for free. It's a free app. And it'll be custom to your league. You can sync your league, Sleeper, Yahoo, ESPN, and CBS. So it'll all be custom to your league. Best way you could possibly support me, the whole Walter Picks brand. Check out the Walter Picks app. Link is in the TikTok bio. Link is in the YouTube description. There are some premium features in the app too that are well worth it. They come with a completely free 7-day trial. Use code SAM when you sign up. That does help me out. All right, let's get to this one. I think it was Dowdle versus Godwin was the question. Dowdle projects better than Godwin. Dowdle definitely has like some trap potential. Definitely some real fantasy trap potential here in week 5. Because I don't think he's going to be in this like workhorse role, like guaranteed. I would actually be kind of surprised if we see Dowdle in this like massive workhorse role, like we saw Chuba Hubbard in last season. I think Trevor Etienne is going to step into the Rico Dowdle role. Rico Dowdle is going to be stepping into the Chuba Hubbard role because Chuba Hubbard's out. But it's a really good matchup versus the Dolphins. That's the thing that I'm saying it's a potential trap, but I'm not all the way there saying that Dowdle's a trap. I think we probably have him ranked a little bit too high in the Walter Picks app. Like his floor is a little bit scary. I think we're projecting him closer to his ceiling than his floor right now. But yeah, he's going to have his biggest workload of the season, and he gets the Dolphins. And the Dolphins have been awful defensively. One of the worst defenses in the NFL. They're allowing 110 rushing yards per game. They're allowing 53 receiving yards per game. I think they are in the bottom 5 of the NFL. Yeah, they're definitely in the bottom 5 of the NFL in total yards allowed per game to running backs. They've only allowed 1 rushing touchdown. But I don't think there's this like massive ceiling or super safe floor with Dowdle if Trevor Etienne mixes in and how bad this offense looked last week. Chris Godwin, on the other hand, I think his ceiling is definitely higher than Rico Dowdle. Godwin had a very underrated role last week. Over 100 air yards, over 25% target share, 10 total targets. He's definitely startable here. I think if you want the floor, lock in at least 10 points, you probably go Dowdle. If you want the ceiling, chance at 20 plus, you go Godwin. That's how I would play it. Vikings take a 14-10 lead here in London. This game has been definitely a fun one. I think Jordan Mason scored that. All right, let's get back to some of these comments. Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt or Trevion Henderson? Yeah, Steven, I think you got to go Hendo there. Yeah, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt's really tough to trust right now. He's not going to get a huge receiving role. Chris Rodriguez, it's a five-way backfield for the Commanders. That's why it's so tough. The floor is really rough for Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt. He's another guy, like if he doesn't score, he's going under 10 points. Almost 100% he's going under 10 points. I mean, you could probably say the same thing for Hendo. So a slightly better receiving role than Krosky-Merritt. This is definitely like somewhat close. But Chris Rodriguez, Jeremy McNichols, Jaden Daniels, Deebo Samuel, all involved in this backfield. I guess that's 4. No, that's 5. That's 5. 5-way backfield. Yeah, we haven't seen really a ceiling game. The only games over 10 points for JCM, he scored. Chargers are a pretty tough matchup too. Yeah, I think I'd go Hendo. Been here the whole time. Shout out to you. Rachaad White or Jacoby. Let's get to that. And then I do want to get to this one. Joey, good question here from Joey. So White versus Jacoby Myers. God, I think it's probably Jacoby. Let's take a quick look. Woody or Marv, definitely going Woody there. Yeah, Jacoby projects better than White. White has a higher ceiling. Jacoby has the better floor. I kind of think of it the opposite way. The Seahawks defense has been decent this season. They get some of the most pressure on QBs. We have seen a couple good fantasy performances, mostly I think 2 through the receiving game. Yeah, that's part of the reason I like this over 3.5 receptions for White. 7.3 catches per game. That will happen when you play against McCaffrey once, but not very many defenses have allowed. Only one defense has allowed more catches per game, and no defense has allowed more receiving yards per game to running backs than the Seahawks. Part of the reason is because they get so much pressure. You got to dump it off the running back quick. That's the exact role Rachaad White's going to have. But yeah, it's still Jacoby. I still think I would go Jacoby. I don't think you can bench Jacoby in like almost any of these starts that I'm seeing. He's in like a clear wide receiver 1 role. We haven't projected for a 33% target share. You can't bench receivers projected for 30% target shares, especially they're in a game where they're 6-point underdogs, 6.5-point underdogs. And I think the Colts numbers are a little misleading. I mean, last week they played the Rams and the Rams went crazy. Tutu Atwell had one long catch. By the way, if you guys didn't hear on that Tutu Atwell, a game winner from last week, the Colts didn't even have enough guys in the field. They had 10 guys in the field. That makes it a little tougher. But yeah, I think I'd go Jacoby over Rachaad White. I think Rachaad White is the safer play, though, in my opinion, just because he plays running back. His touches are a little bit more locked in. All right, getting to this question from Joey. Why would you start Miller over Chase Brown, Sam? I actually thought this question said, why would you? Because I think I might have said this earlier. I think I would. I think I would start Kendre Miller over Chase Brown. I don't want to start Chase Brown. Nothing in my body makes me want to start Chase Brown. Like, what's the ceiling for Chase Brown realistically in this game? The only positive for Chase Brown, he projects way better than Kendre Miller. That's not that surprising to me because the role isn't bad for Chase Brown. Like, he's playing over 70% of the snaps, seeing over 65% of the carries. And the target share has been there too with Jake Browning. He does 8 targets over his last 2 games. But if this team can't score, there's no ceiling here for Chase Brown. The whole reason we drafted Chase Brown was this really, really large role in a good offense. It really had nothing to do with this like great efficiency or talent for Chase Brown. It was a bankable role on a Joe Burrow offense. The role is still bankable. The Joe Burrow offense is obviously gone. They're playing the Lions. They're huge underdogs. So it could be okay for the receiving role, but Yeah, to me, Kendra Miller is the more exciting play this week. He's coming off his best game. He did score last week. He only played 31% of the snaps. Like, that definitely could grow. There was the report already this week that they're shopping the veteran players. I don't think that necessarily means Kamara plays less. But would anyone be shocked to see Kendra Miller get up to 50% of the work, get 15 carries in this game? I certainly would not be. He's been more efficient than Kamara on the ground. I think this is actually really, really close. And to me, you play the guy in the better matchup with like a more real ceiling, a more real story to a ceiling. Man, not an easy call though. But I think this shows just how down bad Chase Brown is. Of all the panic out there in the fantasy football world, to me, the panic on Chase Brown is the most real. Because the whole story of why we would want to draft him is completely evaporated. Just doesn't exist anymore. Rashee Rice or Judkins at flex. So this is, just doubly wrong here. We got, first of all, it's London time. We're on London time. Judkins is already balling. He's already out there balling. Cashing our free player prop of the early morning live because he's playing in London. It's the third quarter. It's too late. Hopefully you started him. Rashee Rice, he's not playing this week. He's still suspended. He's got 2 more games to go. When he comes back, though, he's probably going to be a top 5 receiver in fantasy. So, yeah, I'm playing Kendra Miller over Amari DiMercado as well. Woody or White? Yeah, that one's super close. I think we have White projected ahead. I honestly think I'd go Woody over White. Just barely. It's super, super close. Both are good options. Yeah, I'm playing Kendra Miller over DiMercado. Has Judkins cashed for us yet? Seems like he's churning out yards. He's at 68. He's close. Only on 10 carries. 6.8 yards per carry for Judkins, and he also had a huge one. Oh, good call here. I would go straight over Hunter Henry. Matt, thank you for calling this out. Weatherman Sam update. I almost forgot. Man. Wow. Yeah, Baker versus Dart. I think we have Baker projected ahead of Dart. I think Dart's floor is honestly safer. Like, I think Dart's floor is around his rushing production from last week, which was 56 yards or something in a touchdown. Over 50 rushing yards in a touchdown last week. And then we will get the Weatherman Sam report here in a second as well. Yeah, I really do like Dart this week against the Saints. I know Neighbors being out limits his passing ceiling. He only had 111 passing yards, but he ran 10 times for 54 yards and a touchdown. He has an even easier matchup this week. Tight end rankings. Yeah, I got you the tight end ranks. Pull the tight end ranks on the TikTok live as well. But yeah, it's Baker. It's still Baker over Dart. I think Dart's a good option. If you don't have one of the top 12 QBs, then it's probably Dart after that. And then Weatherman Sam update. Yeah, I do have a Weatherman Sam update. Sorry, I missed it. Can't believe I almost went live without hitting on the Weatherman Sam update. Let me find it quick. Yeah, here it is. And partially because there's really no weather to update you guys on. There's one game with a notable weather report. Weatherman Sam, by the way, he's here for you all season long. Always dialed in to the weather and if it's going to impact fantasy and props or not. And this week, it's another week, the 5th straight week, really, where it's not. Nope, not going to impact. The Chiefs and Jaguars game, there's the one notable game. There is some potential for rain. There's a chance of rain. And there's likely going to be wind gusts in the 20 to 25 mile an hour range. I'm not concerned. Not concerned at all, really. This is the only notable game, too, so none of the other games have any concern for me whatsoever. I don't even think we're going to see a drop of rain in any of the other games. And as a reminder for the people new here to the Weatherman Sam segment, wind over 25 miles an hour, that's when we get concerned. Wind gusts are obviously less concerning than sustained winds, too. But yeah, we don't even have wind gusts over 25 miles an hour, so we are not concerned. But that's it. Maybe some rain in this game to be aware of, the Chiefs and Jags. That's it. Nothing I'm changing rankings for or anything. Happy Sunday to you as well, Zach. Also, K9 or Dowdle. Oh gosh, yeah, I think you got to go Dowdle over Kenneth. I don't feel good about that one, but I think you do have to go Dowdle over Kenneth. And then trade away Harvey for Pittman / Tet PPR. Yeah, Harvey for Tet, I would do. Harvey for Tet, I think I'd do. Yeah, I think I would do this one. You get Rasheed, London, and then Tet potentially taking Jacoby for you. I like that a lot, actually. Rashad White or Genty? It's Rashad White. Yep, Rashad White. It's a good one here. Do I like Imanor today? I definitely see the story with Imanor. He's been a bunch of starts. Like would honestly be a strong word for me though. Like I can see it making some sense in some spots. That's like as far as I'd go with Imanor. He has had a really good role to start the season. The air yards are there. The touchdown potential is there. Ridley's injured, still playing though. He's startable in some situations. DeMercado or Slayton at flex? Yeah, it's Slayton here for sure. Slayton, this is the first Slayton question I think I've got to today. But Slayton is definitely startable. I think Slayton is the biggest benefactor of the Malik Neighbors injury. Of all players on the Giants, it's Slayton. Like he's going to be the guy running routes down the field now. He gets a pretty good matchup versus the Saints. We have him for a 26% target share. So yeah, I'm taking that over DeMercado all day long. Godwin, Olave, or Monty? Start 2. Godwin, Olave, or Monty? That's a good one. Let's get to this quick. Godwin, a lot of Godwin questions. I do like Godwin. I think the role for Godwin was good last week. I don't want to bench Monty either. And then Olave's in a good matchup this week too versus the Giants. Yeah, it's Monty. It's Monty and Olave. It's Monty and Olave. I think I'd probably agree with this. Derrick Henry or Myers at flex? Oh, gosh. That one's close. I see Henry or Jamar in a PPR league. Diggs or Sutton? I think I'd go Diggs personally. Sutton probably projects better. I'm playing Diggs in the revenge game there. And I saw Henry versus Jacoby, and then Henry versus, was it Jamar? I think I saw. I think I go the receivers in both those. Henry's not like, I don't think he's as good as these other guys. Let's see. Jamar Chase and Jacoby. I have both Jacoby and Jamar in my DK lineup. I do like them both. Yeah, we got Henry projected ahead of Jamar. I'm playing Jamar over Derrick Henry personally. The ceiling's higher. The offense for the Ravens really should and probably will flow through Henry today. But still, it's a Cooper Rush-led offense. Like, I don't want to get too ahead of myself here and think that this is actually that much better for Derrick Henry. Like, probably not playing with Lamar is worse for Derrick Henry in the whole offense. They're going to sustain less drives. They're going to score less touchdowns. We've only seen one good game from Henry, and it was week 1. And the Texans haven't been bad versus running backs. I think I'd go the 2 receivers here, both Jamar and Jacoby over Derrick Henry. I would play Sutton over Dowdle. Travis Etienne or Rashad White? I think that's Rashad White. Marvin Harrison Jr., Ladd, or Godwin? Pick 2 of these 3. And then there were some questions from the Discord I want to get to as well. As always, guys, if you do the Walter Pick subscription in the app, which is so worth it. If you're serious about fantasy, you're in a competitive league, or you're serious about props each week and you're actually wagering a decent amount each week on props, like you got to try the Walter Picks app. And if you subscribe to the Walter Picks app, there's a free trial to test it out. But if you subscribe to the Walter Picks app, you get access to premium-only Discord channels, which gives you priority in the comment section of these lives. Marvin Harrison Jr., Ladd, Godwin, there goes Njoku. He's in, both tight ends have scored. Looks like Dylan Gabriel maybe a little bit better than Joe Flacco. We talked about that potentially happening before this game on London time. All right, we got Marv, Ladd, and then Godwin. A lot of Godwin questions, understandably. And it's Marv that you bench here. Yeah, you play Ladd, you play Godwin. I think all 3 Chargers receivers are good starts today. I do. Judkins cashed. 80 yards rushing. Harold Fandon cashed. 4 catches. We just need the Browns now to win. And the Browns to cover the 3.5. And we're 3-0 to start this Sunday. This is what I'm talking about, starting these London time weeks off strong, man. Love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. Do you think Pickens will go off again? Yeah, I do think Pickens projects really, really well. It's hard not to expect him to continue to succeed this week. The Jets secondary is not that scary. They rank about middle of the pack versus receivers this season. They're definitely capable of narrowing in on one guy, preventing one guy from doing well. Metcalf only had 12 points. No Bills receiver really did, all that much. Mike Evans had 13 against them. Ibuka had 14. Tyreek had 12 and a half. Last week he got hurt, though. The Jets secondary hasn't been bad. They've been worse against the run. But last week, the Cowboys built their offense around George Pickens. They designed the entire offense around Pickens, and it worked amazingly well against one of the best defenses in the league. 8 catches, 134, 2 TDs. He was wide receiver 2. He had almost a 30% target share, by far the highest of the season. He had half the air yards on the team. I mean, it's impossible to bench Pickens. And yeah, it's hard not to expect another good game. I would play Godwin over Brian Thomas Jr. Trey Tucker or Wan'Dale Robinson. This is a good close one here. Wan'Dale obviously should also benefit from the Malik Neighbors injury. I think a little less than Slayton, but it's possible he ends up being the biggest benefactor. We have seen plenty of high target shares for Wan'Dale over the years, including this year. And we've also seen him run downfield more this year than we've ever seen. But yeah, with no Brock Bowers, I think the ceiling's higher for Trey Tucker. I'd go Trey Tucker. I'd play Godwin over Tucker too. Why Johnson over Strange? I don't know what you're seeing that's telling you Johnson over Strange, but I definitely would go Strange over Johnson. Yeah, I think Juwan Johnson's a must bench. We're not even sure if he's going to play. He might not even play. And there's 2 tight ends back for the Saints today. 2 tight ends back for the Saints. We're battling flu-like symptoms on the live today, by the way. Andrew, the Champions chat. Let me get to some of the Discord comments here too for the subscribers. As promised, make sure I get to some of these. I have some of them prepared as screenshots too on the TikTok live. All right, let me make sure I got to all these. We got Darius Slayton, Imanor, T. Higgins, Tolbert, and Sean Tucker. 2 wide receivers on a flex. Yeah, so you definitely bench Sean Tucker here. You probably bench Imanor too, and you go Tolbert, Slayton. Let's actually do Imanor versus T. Oh gosh, Imanor versus T. I think I go T. Higgins personally. The projections might have Imanor though. We go through some of these. If you're watching live on TikTok, this is exactly what you can get for free in the Walter Picks app. Link is in the TikTok bio. It'll be custom to your league settings as well. Use code THAN when you sign up too. You get a free 7-day trial to the premium features. All right, T. Higgins versus Imanor. Tolbert, I would start. Slayton, I would start. Sean Tucker, I would bench in a spot like this. And I agree. I would go T. Higgins over Imanor. It's close. It's super close. But there is a ceiling. There is still a ceiling, like a legit ceiling, like a 30-point ceiling for T. Higgins. I don't think we're at a 30-point ceiling yet for Imanor. We've probably kind of seen his ceiling around 15, 16 points. Obviously, both guys have a low floor too. So yeah, I'd go T. Higgins. I'd go T. Higgins there. Continuing with some of the Discord comments. By the way, Jalen Tolbert, his role has grown a lot. These are some of the advanced game logs from the Walter Picks app. We'll pull these up on YouTube too. But yeah, the advanced game logs look pretty good for Jalen Tolbert. He's playing over 80% of the snaps. He's seeing over 13% target shares. He's seeing over a third of the air yards too. All stats you can find for free in the Walter Picks app. All right, Pollard, Mason, Chase Brown start too. Yeah, we're benching Chase Brown. But that was also a London time question, so I think I answered that one actually earlier. All right, we got a question here from Rob. He said he traded Trevion Henderson and Pickens for Rasheed and Juwan Johnson. So first of all, that's an amazing trade. If you can flip Pickens plus a guy like Henderson or some like flex or bench player and you get Rasheed Rice, that's a league-winning move. Rasheed Rice is going to be maybe a top 3 receiver. He could be number 1 when he comes back with how the Chiefs have been playing and how little they've been able to run the ball. All right, but he's saying that he's thin on flex and buys now. Sharp, Dowdle, Michael Carter. Yeah, I would definitely go with Sharp and Dowdle over Michael Carter. Michael Carter is the trap of the week. He's the trap of the week. And hopefully I convinced you Fannin over Johnson earlier. Dobbins or Brown. It's definitely Dobbins over Chase Brown for me. I think I might have this one here. Yeah, this is the last one I took a screenshot of before the live. Yeah, it's Chase. Chase Brown's not a guy I feel great about. I don't know how you could possibly feel great about him. To me, there's a lot of over panic happening in fantasy. Guys like Ladd and Brian Thomas Jr., Jamar Chase. But Chase Brown, the panic is definitely warranted. I was saying earlier, I would go against the projections and start Kendre Miller over Chase Brown. May or Stroud, I would go May over Stroud. Woody or Rico Dowdle? It's Woody. Yeah, it's definitely Woody over Rico, like pretty easily. I don't think there's any trap potential to Woody at all. I think there is some real trap potential to Dowdle. Because Woody, we've already seen the role. Like we saw the role last week, and I think the role is only going to grow for Woody Marks. We haven't seen what this workhorse role for Rico Dowdle looks like because Chuba Hubbard played last week. I would go Henry over Kincaid. Seeing a Discord comment about this. The Bills that have been good against tight ends. Let's see the tight ends they played. Kincaid is not a guy you can really trust to start. Let me go to the tight end ranks here on the TikTok live. Make sure I got the tight end ranks up on the YouTube live too. I do have that. Let's switch to the wide receiver ranks. Yeah, I don't know how you trust Kincaid. So the Bills, they played Mark Andrews. He had 1 point. Then they played the Jets. Jeremy Ruckert scored, but I mean, did basically nothing. Wow. I mean, no tight ends done anything. They did play Juwan Johnson, probably the best tight end. I mean, Andrews maybe the best tight end they played. Andrews has had some good games outside of that. But wow, yeah, I mean, the Bills, they're second best or second worst, depending on how you want to look at it. They've allowed the second fewest catches and the fewest yards per game to tight ends. 2.3 catches for 17 yards. This is the type of situation I don't want to read too much into, though. Granted, they haven't played like the best tight ends. It's definitely not a good sign at the same time. But then you look at Hunter Henry and the game environment potentially here versus the Bills. He only had 2 catches last week. We saw a 29-point game from him, though. In week 3, he scored twice. He had 8 catches in that game. He's playing over 75% of the snaps. He's seeing almost a 20% target share this season. The Bills are 8-point favorites in the game. It's hard not to see some role for Henry. And then on the other side, Kincaid, he's like the opposite. He's barely playing, but he's been extremely efficient. Not the type of role on paper that you want to start. The 15% target share is outside the top 20. That's like 15% target share for Kincaid versus 20% target share for Henry. He had 2 targets last week. He's playing under half the snaps, but he scored 3 times. So yeah, I think I would go Henry over Kincaid. It's definitely close though. Definitely super close. Start one, Sutton or Wandale Robinson or Trey Tucker. Yeah, it's Sutton. Sutton over Wandale, Sutton over Trey Tucker. Etienne or White. I'm going Rachaad White over Etienne. I'm going Rachaad White over Etienne. Those are all from the Champions Chat Discord channel, where only Walter Pick subscribers can message in. I will prioritize those as well every single live stream. Can I start Dart over Kyler Murray? Kendre Miller over Monty? I'm not going Kendre Miller over Monty. I'm not benching Monty. If you have Monty, you have him for this game. Like, this is the game you have him for. He's going to score. He has such a high chance of scoring versus the Bengals. Even off a tough game, you kind of have to start, I think, Monty. And then Dart versus Kyler, can you start him? Yeah, 100% you can. Like, I don't think it's that crazy. We have Kyler projected better. I honestly, like, I think Dart has one of the safest floors of all in all fantasy quarterbacks this week. And there's some pretty good quarterback options. But Jackson Dart, he had 50 rushing yards last week. I like his rushing prop in this game like a decent amount as well. I forget what I said my favorite prop in this game was. But he had 10 carries last week. Guys, if Jackson Dart averages 10 carries a game, he has a pretty good chance to lead all quarterbacks in carries per game. With no Malik Neighbors, I think we can definitely expect Dart to run a lot, both designed runs and scrambles when they call passing plays. He had 54 rushing yards and a touchdown against a much tougher defense in the Chargers. Now he gets the Saints. So I think the rushing floor is pretty good. The Saints have allowed Josh Allen 45 rushing yards and a touchdown. Kyler had 38 rushing yards against them. The 2 rushing QBs they played. They've allowed a ton of passing touchdowns. They're 3rd worst in that stat. They're allowing over 20 points per game to quarterbacks. So yeah, I don't think it's that crazy to go Dart over Kyler. We've Kyler projected a little bit ahead, but it's close. All right, that's all the Discord comments. All right, let's get to some more comments from the live stream itself. Trey Tucker or Diggs? I'm going Diggs. I'm in on the Diggs revenge game. I'm in on it. Why is Juwan Johnson so low? Because he's questionable and he might not play. And I keep saying Michael Mayer, but Foster Moreau is back. Taysom Hill is back. So 2 tight ends that had roles last year. We don't really know what their roles are going to be this year because it's a new coaching staff. But they're both back. And then Juwan Johnson, he's also a true questionable. He's like the only true questionable, I think, left basically on the slate today. Dylan Gabriel now has more passing touchdowns than Joe Flacco. Oh, Juwan Johnson, he's officially active. We did get this report from Schefter. Miles Sanders inactive. Jaden Blue going to be active for the first time. Jaden Blue, our comp for him in the NFL draft was Nyheim Hines. I really think that comp gives you a pretty good understanding of what we might see from Jaden Blue. He had 86th percentile college receiving production. Jaden Blue, he's got 92nd percentile speed. He's not going to be like this high volume carries guy, but on a team that has been throwing the ball like 40 plus times for 3 straight weeks, Jaden Blue definitely has a potential. Not a guy I would start, but I'm definitely excited to see him out there for the first time. Definitely, to me, gives more juice to this offense than Miles Sanders. Yeah, Juwan Johnson is also active. Still a must bench, in my opinion, though. Still a must bench. Woody, Rico, Dobbins, Higgins. Pick 3. Yeah, just bench Rico. Rico versus Higgins is, oh God, it's a tough call. If you were going for ceiling, to me, it's still T. Higgins, but definitely the floor saver for Rico. So if you want to lock in 10, you go Rico. If you want a chance at 30 plus, I still think it's T. Higgins giving you a better chance at that. The matchup for Rico is good, though. God, we got T down at 8.9. It's rough to see. So yeah, you're benching Higgins or Rico here. You're definitely playing Woody and Dobbins. Bills or Seahawks defense? I'd go Seahawks. Would I roster Jaden Blue over Ollie or Quorum? That's an interesting one. Man, I wouldn't drop him for Quorum. I do think Quorum's ceiling's higher. They all need injuries to hit. And even if, I think Ollie's ceiling's probably higher too. Even if Javonte went down, I don't think we like necessarily see Jaden Blue like in this like 15 plus carry role. I'm not sure he's going to be a workhorse back at the NFL level. I think his ceiling is kind of like a Darren Sproles type archetype where he really crushes in the receiving game, maybe really efficient on some carries. We'll go to the running back ranks. T. Higgins or Steph Diggs? Yeah, it's Diggs. It's definitely Diggs. Start 3, Sutton, Egbuka, Ladd, or Myers? I'm definitely going Myers. Sutton, Egbuka, Ladd. I'm definitely going Egbuka. Let's do Sutton versus Ladd. It's actually probably pretty close. I think Sutton's one spot ahead of Ladd. Yeah, I'd go Sutton. I'd go Sutton over Ladd, but it's close. I do think it's really close. Good morning, Sam. Hope all is well. Any bets for today, Kyle? We're doing great, man. We're doing great. We're battling through flu-like symptoms on the Sunday morning live day, but doing fantastic because it's the best day of the week. We do have a bunch of props. Yeah, we were riding. Kyle, if you were with us on London time, we already cashed 2 props in that game. Judkins, rushing yards, Fannin, receptions. I also did like the Browns at plus 3.5 in that game. That's definitely still in play. The 2 favorite props I shared on the live today, the official one is Rachaad White over 3.5 receptions. That my second favorite prop, though, that I also like is the Drake May rushing lines. Over rushing attempts, 4.5, over rushing yards, 27.5 for Drake May. Why sit the Cardinals running backs? Mercado or Sharp or Franklin pick 2? Yeah, I think there's just a ton of risk to the floor for these Cardinals running backs. The matchup is good. The Cardinals generally have a good rushing attack. But there's 3 different running backs at play for the Cardinals today. And I think they're all 3 they're going to play. And the reports are all 3 are going to have a chance to be the hot hand and get the work in the backfield. And if that ends up being Bam Knight, Michael Carter's going to go for under 3 points. If that ends up being Bam Knight, Mercado is at risk to go under 3 points. Michael Carter's going to start the game. He projects the best. Mercado is going to play all the pass down work. He's going to all the pass down work. Mercado's role is not changing at all. I don't think with Benson out. He's not going to get a ton of carries still. He's going to play, the third downs, the obvious passing downs is when Mercado is going to be out there. So he has some PPR potential, but like not a huge touchdown potential, not a huge ceiling, and a pretty low floor still because he's only going to be out there for a third of the snaps. And then Michael Carter and Bam Knight are going to be splitting the other work. It's just not a safe situation. I would definitely go Sharp and Franklin over Mercado. I would probably go Sharp there overall. Genty, Marks, Henry, or Dowdle. Half PPR, you got to start Henry. I think it would be Henry and Marks over Genty and Dowdle. Yeah. Flex Harrison or Woody? It's Woody. Yeah, we're playing Woody, guys. Flowers or Rico? Yeah, I haven't seen a ton of Zay Flowers questions on the live today, and it's understandable with Cooper Rush starting. It's probably Rico in a spot like this. Yeah, it's Rico. It's Rico. Love the app like usual. Thanks, Josh. Yeah, guys, if you have not checked out the Walter Picks app yet, you got to check it out. So many powerful free features. The premium features come with a completely free 7-day trial. Like if you're serious about trying to win your fantasy league or trying to win player props on a consistent basis, like you need to try the Walter Picks app. There's no excuse not to try it. Still waiting for MFL sync. Yeah, shout out to that, Josh. Definitely on our radar. MFL is on our radar. NFL fantasy is on our radar. NFFC is on our radar. The other one that's on our radar is RT Sports. And then also Underdog and DraftKings, remain on our radar too for best ball. Chase Brown, J.K. Dobbins, Rico, Trevion Henderson, JT, Dave Montgomery. Hope you feel better. Happy Sunday. Thanks, man. Dobbins, Rico, Henderson, JT. Okay, so get JT out of here, Josh. This is not a true sport. You can narrow this down for us, Josh. JT is not in start sit questions. That's rule number one. As much as I do want to ramble about Jonathan Taylor's role, not necessary for anyone. He's running back 1 this week, not a start sit decision. So let's go to the other parts of the start sit. We'll call it a 3-way start sit. I'm definitely starting both Monty and Dobbins here. So it really is Rico versus Trevion Henderson and Chase Brown. I think it's probably Rico for me over Henderson and Chase Brown. Chase Brown versus Henderson's a tough call too. I think you kind of have to go Chase Brown over Henderson. But yeah, it's Rico. Yeah, you got a pretty good situation here. So yeah, you're going Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, Rico Dowdle, and Dave Montgomery, and you're feeling really good about it, I think. What are your scat? Yeah, not a ton of scat-a-boo. Not scat-a-bo, scat-a-boo. We learned this earlier in the live. My historically bad name pronunciations have continued this season. But I do like scat-a-boo. Really good matchup for him, of course. I just like Woody Marks a little bit more. The matchup's even better for Woody Marks. The receiving role even better for Woody Marks. A little bit concerning Scattaboo's receiving role last week. Only 2 catches, 11 yards. He played 75% of the snaps. Only had 2 targets. Like Jackson Dart maybe won't throw to the running backs as much as Russell Wilson. So that's definitely a little concerning. He still had 13 points, 79 rushing yards. Yeah, easier matchup this week too versus the Saints. So they're both good options, but yeah, I do prefer Marks. Jonah, how we doing? What up, my man, Sam? Happy Sunday. Do I start Herbert or Jaden Daniels? Yeah, there's a really small list of QBs I'm starting over Jaden Daniels this week. That list includes Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, Herbert, and Fields. That's it. End of list. 5 guys. Yeah, I would go Herbert over Jaden Daniels. Good matchup for him versus the Commanders. I don't want to bench Jaden Daniels either. I think all 6 of these guys are pretty good. There's a lot of good QB options, honestly, this week, despite the buys. I feel pretty good about Goff. I think Stroud's like a very sneaky top 10 QB. Kyler, I don't feel amazing about, but he projects decently every single week because of the rushing. Baker Mayfield projects for big pass volume with Bucky Irving out. Drake May has the rushing upside against the Bills in a game that they're going to be behind. Daniel Jones has been playing fantastic this season. He still ranks as QB 8 on the season, averaging over 20 points per game, though he has declined every week. Fantasy points wise, we've seen every single week like -5, -5, -5, basically for Daniel Jones. Hopefully he can turn it around today versus the Raiders. Dak Prescott, I think, is a decent start. Jackson Dart, I think, has a really high floor for his rushing. I mean, there's a lot of QBs I like. Can you show tight end? Yeah, I got you the tight ends. Juwan Johnson is active, by the way, but still not a guy I want to start because the other 2 tight ends are back. Waller sub in for Johnson this week? Yeah, Kerry, I would do that. Yes, I would trade all 3 of these guys, Joseph, at once. If I could get Rashee Rice back, I would do that in a heartbeat. Like, wouldn't even think twice about it. Rashee Rice could be the number 1 receiver in fantasy. He's going to probably project top 5 in fantasy. In the Walter Picks app, if I go to the rest of the season rankings right now, quick on the YouTube live, and we're running out of time to try to trade for Rashee Rice. Every week, he's one of the biggest climbers in the rest of the season rankings. Every week, he comes 1 week closer to being back from the suspension. We have him at wide receiver 3, and he's still projected out 2 games. I mean, there's not many guys you definitely can't put him over Puka. Honestly, though, I wouldn't be it's not crazy to think he could do better than Amon-Ra rest of the season when he's back. Those are the only 2 guys ahead of him in the rest of the season ranks right now. I actually don't have a screenshot of the QB ranks, but I do have them up on the YouTube live. If you're on TikTok and want to see the QB ranks, come to the YouTube live link is right in the TikTok bio, or look up Walter Picks on YouTube. Jawan Johnson, Michael Carter, DeMarcado, or Tolbert. Pick one. Yeah, if you've been listening to this whole live, you probably know what I'm going to say here, and it's Jalen Tolbert. Yeah, I think it's Tolbert over these guys. One of Carter and DeMarcado definitely can do well. I think the floors are really, really risky, though. Super risky. Detroit or Denver defense? Probably go Denver. AJ Brown or Shakir? Oh, gosh. I thought we were going to get more AJ Brown questions, honestly, than we did. AJ Brown is the squeakiest of all wheels. Like, you couldn't be a squeakier wheel than AJ Brown right now. He's a tough matchup versus the Broncos today, but I mean, clearly unhappy about the role that he's had and the volume that he's had. We've seen one game where the Eagles have been forced to pass, and AJ Brown was the top 10 receiver that week. I won't be surprised at all if the Eagles are forced to pass today, and maybe a closer game against the Broncos than people expect. Yeah, it's AJ Brown. I'm playing AJ Brown. Tootin versus Jaden Blue. That's actually probably pretty close. I'd probably lean Tootin. Obviously, hard to know exactly what the role is going to look like for Jaden Blue, but I do think there'll be a receiving role. But I think a bigger rushing potential for Tootin for sure. Pretty similar, honestly, though. I think Tootin's ceiling is still higher, though. Tootin is like more capable of handling like a larger carry workload than Jaden Blue. Taysom Hill or Mason Taylor? I'm so happy we're back in a world with Taysom Hill. Start sit questions, guys. I added him on a lot of my leagues. I really think Taysom Hill should be rostered in every league because there's a potential where he's in a role like we've seen in the past that is just kind of a cheat code in your tight end slot in fantasy. But we can't jump there right away in his first game back with a new coaching staff. There's no way you can start him. It's an extremely risky start. Like, there's definitely a potential of 0 points for Taysom. So, yeah, I would go Mason Taylor personally. Why Travis Etienne is so high? I mean, Etienne's been balling. The Chiefs defense has also not been great, oddly, versus running backs. Etienne versus Dowdle's pretty close. I honestly think I might go Etienne here over Dowdle. Etienne's the running back 11 in points per game. He had almost 20 points last week. He had 16.6 points per game this season. I haven't seen a lot of Travis Etienne questions, but I would play Woody Marks over AJ Brown. Yeah, for sure. I'd play Woody Marks over Monty too, though I do really want to start Monty. But I want to start Woody Marks more. Scatterbo and Justice Hill back-to-back games against the Chiefs. Both went over 24 fantasy points. That's probably good news for Etienne and Tootin. Goff, Dart, Stroud, full PPR. Yeah, I think Stroud projects. Goff, I actually think projects the best, then Stroud, then Dart. All of these guys are good options, I think, this week. Yeah, I'd go Goff, though. Did you say you would take Kendre Miller over Chase Brown still? Yeah, Charlie, I'm seeing you in the Discord. I would go Kendre Miller over Chase Brown personally. I'm going against our projections in the Walter Picks app here, which usually is risky to do. Like, historically, I think I have a negative win right there against the app. Because the way that the Walter Picks app projections work, we're using machine learning to project efficiencies better than you could possibly do as a human. And then we have a 5-person projections team all helping make sure we're projecting volume as accurately as possible. And the projections in there are median projections. And then there's obviously floor ceiling projections you can do in the comparisons. And to me, Chase Brown, like, what is the ceiling for Chase Brown in an offense that's not going to be able to score clearly as well? The receiving role for Chase Brown is why he projects better than Kendre Miller. The receiving role, he had 7 catches in the last 2 games, so 3.5 catches per game with Jake Browning. That's higher than it was with Joe Burrow. So that definitely raises his projection. That's more than we can project for Kendre Miller. But to me, like, one of the harder things to encapsulate here is a potential growing role for Kendre Miller. He only had 33% of the carries last week. Only played 30% of the snaps, but those were both increases. We're projecting 32% rush share today, but I think that you could get 50% of the carries. He also has a better matchup than Chase Brown. I mean, it's really close. And I'm definitely going on a limb here to say Kendrick Miller over Chase Brown. But yeah, I am fully panicked on Chase Brown. I just don't think there's a real ceiling. I think these guys have comparable floors. I would be less surprised to see Kendrick Miller score twice versus the Giants than Chase Brown score twice versus the Lions. So yeah, I think there's just a higher ceiling. And I won't be shocked if Kendrick Miller outplays Alvin Kamara. Like he's outplayed him in back-to-back games. He's been more efficient than Kamara in back-to-back games. Last two games, 2.3 yards per carry, 4.7 yards per carry for Kamara. Kendrick Miller was better in both those games. Who is Trevor Etienne? Good question. He is Travis Etienne's brother. Real dude. Real guy that's going to play a real role today for the Panthers because Chuba Hubbard's out. Good question here, for sure, from the TikTok Live. Trevor Etienne, he was picked, I have in front of me here, I think a 4th-round pick. He was a 4th-round pick in the NFL draft, like an early 4th-round pick. But still, that's not a great round to get picked in. This was a really good running back class, though. He was a capable receiving back in college. I think he's a better receiving back, like a better receiver than Dowdle. He has 94th percentile speed. There's some similarities to Travis Etienne, his brother. And yeah, he's going to have a real role. Part of the reason I think Dowdle's a little bit of a trap this week is I think Trevor Etienne's probably going to be more involved than people expect. God, I feel gross benching Chase Brown for Kendrick Miller here in week 5, but I really do think it's reasonable. Dart or Jones for QB? Yeah, I would lean Jones over Dart. They're really close, but I think Jones has a much higher passing upside. Better matchup for Dart. Jones is just like a slightly better version of Dart, I feel like. Chase Brown, Slayton, or Waller? Gosh. My gut says Slayton here. I don't think I'd start Waller over Slayton. Yeah, Chase Brown projects the best. I think I'd go Slayton here as well. For all the similar reasons to Kendrick Miller. I do want to bench Chase Brown. Pollard, Carter, or Miller? A gross one. Pollard, Carter, or Miller? Pollard's definitely risky this week too. I think I have him on my must bench list. Carter's, I think, more of a must bench. And then Miller's a guy that I do like the potential of. It's still probably Pollard. I think I would probably play Pollard still over Chase Brown, over Kendrick Miller. But the role is definitely going to be lower for Pollard with Tajay Spears back. Like, these are two guys going in opposite directions. Both offenses suck. Both matchups are decent for Pollard and Miller. All these guys have good matchups, obviously. Good matchup for Carter, too. Thank you, Doc. I got you, Matt. Pittman or Olave, PPR? Pittman projects better. Both good options. Yeah, it's Pittman. Olave, by the way, like pretty underrated kind of PPR scam right now. He's got the 5th most catches in the NFL among receivers. Only Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra, Garrett Wilson, and Puka have more catches per game than Olave. And they're getting him like easy layup catches. AJ Brown, starter sit. Yeah, I'm in on the squeaky wheel for AJ Brown. I'm starting him. Waddle or Sutton today? I don't know how we bench Waddle. I don't know how you look at the situation now with Tyreek out and like don't feel pretty excited about Waddle for fantasy and to start him this week and to start him the rest of the season. It's not a great matchup on paper for Waddle. Diggs did just do well against this Panthers team, but they didn't have to throw much. Like there's a world here where the Dolphins don't need to throw that much this week. Seeing Woody Marks versus Kamara in the chat. Definitely Marks, guys. We're starting Woody Marks. I start Waddle versus Olave. I'll pull that one up in a second too. Yeah, I would go Waddle over Sutton. Waddle's in line for his largest target share of the season. Waddle versus Olave. Super close. We have them both projected for 13.5. Let me pull the wide receiver ranks here. Pull the wide receiver ranks in the YouTube live too. We have them both projected for 13.5. We got Waddle with a higher ceiling, Olave with a safer floor. I think this is exactly right. I totally agree with the analysis here in the Walter Picks app on this one. They project about the same median outcome. Olave, he's 5th in catches per game. I mean, there's such a locked-in role. It's a good matchup for Olave too. He's got the better matchup. So if you want to play it safe, you want to lock in at least 10, we're going Olave. If you want the ceiling though, it's definitely Waddle. Without Tyreek in the lineup, Waddle's got a really, really high ceiling. Dang, Will Riker misses the 50-yarder. Have him in a ton of leagues. Absolutely hate the kicker leagues, to be honest. Will the Thrill can't knock it through for 50. Browns up 17-14 in the London time game. White, Waddle, or Kamara, half PPR. White. Yeah, it's White. Half PPR, it's White. This is why the scoring settings matter so much. Appreciate you shouting out the scoring settings here in this one, Austin. It's part of the reason the Walter Picks app's a complete cheat code. And why it's even better than like what you can get out there just in free fantasy content a lot of time, because you got to account for your settings. They make a huge, huge difference. Let's just look at this one. This is probably a good scenario here. So PPR, it's White by a lot. 16.5 to 13.5 to 13. If we switch this to half PPR, it's White by even more. 14 to 10 to 11. Because he's the least dependent of these guys on receptions in the role he's going to be in today. And touchdowns just matter more in half PPR. Running backs always get a huge boost over receivers in half PPR. Henderson, Carter, Kendre, PPR. Yeah, this is a tough one. Let's go to the running back ranks here. Henderson is a really tough call for me this week. And I've been telling a lot of people to bench him. There's going to always be a story we can tell with him. But if we're going off the usage so far this season, like you have to expect an unexpected jump in usage for Henderson to really buy into his ceiling. He's playing a third of the snaps. He's getting a third of the touches in the backfield for the Patriots. He's not their starter. He's doesn't seem to be their preferred goal line back. Gibson has seemingly getting half the goal line work. It's a three-way committee for the Patriots, and the QB runs as well. Michael Carter projects the best here. Gosh, this is not an easy one for me. I think I would say Kendre Miller again in this one too. I'm going to close and open the app here to get some updated projections in case we've updated anything since the live started. But yeah, I think I would go Kendre Miller. Look at that. Should we watch now? A little Inception on the YouTube live this morning. All right, let's get to some more start sits here. Juwan or Waller, full PPR. Yeah, I know there was some risk Juwan Johnson was going to be out earlier in the live. That's part of the reason I was telling people to bench him. I still think he's a bench, though, with Taysom and Foster Moreau active for the first time this season. I would go Waller here over Juwan Johnson. One running back, one flex. Chase Brown, Carter, Henderson, Keon Coleman. Yeah, I think you go Chase Brown and Keon Coleman here over Carter and Henderson. I could see an argument for Henderson and Keon if you really want to maximize ceiling. Otherwise, I think it's Chase Brown and Keon Coleman. Flowers, Ladd, DeMercado in a standard league. Oh, God, this is gross. Let's go to a standard format here. The standard leagues are not my favorite. That like even more so than the jump from PPR to half PPR, I think you get an even bigger boost from running backs from half PPR to non-PPR. Like it really skews towards the running backs. And even still, it's not like DeMercado is going to be getting a ton of carries though. So yeah, it's Ladd. I would go Ladd. The fact that it's not PPR makes me think about it for a second, but yeah, it's Ladd. Marks or BTJ or Carter? It's Marks. Yeah, it's Marks easily. It's Marks like easily. He's in an amazing spot today. A Ravens defense missing 5 starters. His role is growing. He had over 17 touches last week. When to panic about Brian Thomas Jr.? Look, some panic is warranted. Some panic is definitely warranted. I just don't think you want to over panic. I wouldn't be selling low on Brian Thomas Jr. I think you can start Sutton over him. But you also look at the end of the season schedule here, and like this is the type of schedule you want for Brian Thomas Jr. when it matters most in the fantasy football playoffs. Maybe the best end of season schedule there is for any receivers. That's part of the reason I don't want to panic. Like it's easy to lose sight of it here in week 5. Bye weeks are hitting, injuries are hitting. But remember, assuming you make it this far, all that matters is the playoffs. It's so easy to lose sight of in fantasy, but Brian Thomas Jr. could easily be a league winner with his schedule down the stretch. All we need is we just need to get Mac Jones back to the Jaguars, huh? But no, I would start Sutton over Brian Thomas Jr. this week. But I don't know if I'm going to be full panic, like full sell on Brian Thomas Jr. with that schedule and with what we've seen from him in the past. Yeah, you're starting the 3 middle running backs here, definitely. Scatterbo, Brees, Woody. You're benching ETN. And then you're playing Pittman over Sutton. Yeah, Pittman, Scatterbo, Brees, Woody. Over Woody Marks over Kenneth Walker easily. Brees Hall over Kenneth Walker easily. Scatterbo over Kenneth Walker, I think, pretty easily too. All 3 of those guys are smash plays this week. You go back to the must starts, must bench. Start Pollard or Kelsey? Ooh, man. I always hate the tight ends in the flex. Like, tight ends are already rough enough as it is. I don't want to start 2 of them. But in some spots, it's reasonable. Wow, yeah. Kelsey does project better than Pollard. It's Kelsey over Pollard. Quinshot Judkins says now has 20 carries for 109 yards. That includes a massive 70-yard run that was called back for a holding. The prop markets have been way off on Quinshot Judkins really for 3 straight weeks now. Baker or May? Yeah, so we have Baker projected above May. I personally think I would go May over Baker because of the rushing. We have Baker projected for a huge amount of pass attempts with Bucky Irving out in the matchup against the Seahawks. But yeah, I feel better about May with the rushing in the game environment here. And honestly, the matchup I think is a little easier too. Yeah, I think I would go May over Baker personally. I'm playing Woody Marks over Rico for sure. That one's not that close in my opinion. Dean Mercado or Bill Krosky-Merritt? Oh, yuck. That's just disgusting. I probably would go to Corey Krosky-Merritt. Tolbert or Cup? Also kind of a gross one. I have told a decent amount of people, honestly, to start Tolbert today. His role is sneakily rising. I actually have a screenshot of his game logs here, which you can get these types of insights for free in the Walter Picks app. I think Cup, Tolbert projects better than Cup. And yeah, the role is growing for Tolbert. He's playing over 80% of the snaps. CeeDee Lamb's out. He's got back-to-back games with 6 targets. It's not a bad matchup for him versus the Jets. I'm okay going Tolbert. This one's definitely not Brian Thomas Jr. We got Brian Thomas Jr. Waddle versus Pittman. I got Jalen Waddle in tier 3. Alongside guys like Keenan, Debo, Pittman, Jamar Chase, Igbuka, Olave, Godwin is top of tier 4. I got Waddle grouped with all those guys. Pittman actually have above Waddle. I would go Pittman over Waddle. It's a close call. Waddle has a tougher matchup, though, than Pittman. But yeah, they're both ahead of Brian Thomas Jr., who's in tier 5. All right, guys. YouTube Live. That's my time. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a fantastic Week 5 Sunday morning live stream. Make sure, if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Because we're going live 3 times a week, me, Avery, and Seth. I'll be live every single Sunday the rest of the season. We're also posting weekly videos, not lives, helping you with waivers, start sits. Obviously, the Walter Picks app is going to help you crush as well, so make sure you have that downloaded. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Time is the most valuable thing we have. Thank you for spending some time with me this wonderful Week 5 Sunday morning on London time. Good luck, everyone, and I'll be back next week.